On. Guys, am I audible now? आवाज आ रही? दोस्त कन्याकुमारी. Guys at the back. You guys, am I audible? दोस्त. If possible, you all can come and sit in the front, right? दोस्त. सर डिस्कशन हो गया? परमिशन स्टार्ट कर. See, before we begin, I have a small question to all of you. ठीक? How many of you actually found the paper to be a bit on difficult side? Only 2 people. For everyone rest, paper was easy. अच्छा ही स्कोर करोगे फिर 50-50 कर लिया होगा, right? Perfect. ठीक. When you guys were solving the question, you might have realized one very important underlying factor. First and foremost, whatever you have learned, whatever factual information which you guys have learned for your 4 core subjects, history, polity, geography, economy, you need to remember all of that factual information. That too in constraint of time, है ना? That too in a quick succession. And then you have to recall all of that factual information to actually help it to eliminate the statements. Correct? For example, there was a question that what acted as a source of inspiration for procedure established by law for our constitution makers, right? Which we have taken from? From which country? पेपर आसान था, है ना? Japan, right? And from where we have taken fundamental duties? And from where we have taken directive principle of state policies? ठीक. For all of you, you actually found the paper very easy, है ना? Right? Something which you can hear right now, right? In the class, right? This silence when the questions were being asked to you, this is the status of your preparation for Prelims 2026. Correct? Then when you are actually moving from one question to another, you have to take a kind of a quantum jump in your memory lane. So in the very next question, you guys were actually kind of diverted to a village in UP, where there is a 12-year-old guy working in a factory, right? And that is leading to the violation of which of his fundamental right? 21A, that is correct, and Article 24, right? 21A, which basically direct the state to provide free and compulsory education from the age of 6 to 14 years. And Article 24, which prohibits the employment of children under the age of 14 years in hazardous factories. Correct? So following this dictum, the government might have enacted some law. Prevention of Child Labor Act 1986, and with a recent amendment in the year of 2016, now the children are completely prohibited from working in any industries altogether. Take two things which we can derive from these 2 simple questions is: 1, whatever you are remembering, you need to remember all of this factual information in such a unique way possible that you can retain this information for a long period of time. Correct? Then you need to recall whatever memory you have stored in your brain. You need to recall that too in a constraint of time in extreme pressure condition in the prelims. आज डर नहीं लग रहा है, because आज अगर 50 में 25 गलत हो गया तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. But in prelims examination, you will be actually scared because that 2 hours will decide your 1 year. Correct? So you have to make quick decisions, that too in constraint of time in extreme pressure condition, and thus whatever knowledge you are accumulating, it has to be actually reflect in the examination. Otherwise कोई purpose नहीं है, right? So basically what we have derived are 4 important fundamentals to clear your prelims examination. ठीक? Remember, retain, recall and reflect. ठीक? See, what we can do, we can actually apply this thought into action. ठीक? You guys have one question, a practice question on your left, also the people who are online. ठीक? Just try to solve this question. I know you guys might be feeling that, sir, one more question. We already have solved enough 50. कोई बात नहीं. ठीक है? You guys have 1 minute of time. Try to solve the question on your left and answer. Also the people who are online, they can solve as well. Sorry? Who is saying A? B? Anyone here for C? C? Take. D? Few people. Take. And in YouTube comment section also, there are people who are confused with C and D. Take. Perfect. See, many of the times when I'm actually discussing with the students, the line of argument, or rather I would choose the word excuse which I get is that we have not revised this recently and that's why we are unable to recall it. Take. One simple question which shall appear in your mind is that we have to remember so much for the prelims examination 6 months down the line. The idea shall be that how to actually retain such piece of information, such magnanimous piece of information, that too very diverse in nature, correct? 2 things can happen. 1, we keep on celebrating birthdays of a lot of people in our life. Every year we are celebrating birthdays of a lot of people. How many exact dates you actually remember? In contrast to that, there is birthday of someone special. ठीक? This is a date you are unable to forget. ठीक? Why? Because you are waiting for it. You are planning for it. You are updating WhatsApp status. 25 days to go, 24 days to go. Can we derive a simple idea that more personalize the information, the longer we can retain it? This is clear? Okay? So for example, you guys might be studying for the prelims examination sincerely, I hope. And you guys might have joined libraries. Okay? How many of you study in library here? Okay. Good amount of people. When you are sitting in libraries and studying for hours, rigorous studies, don't you think that towards the end of the day, the engine of your brain starts shutting down? Correct? The idea is that when you are landlocked in your library, your blood pressure starts boiling. है ना? Your blood pressure boils. In Hindi, we basically call it para chad gaya. Correct? Just like 2 landlocked countries in South America. They do not have access to water. So their blood pressure, BP, boils. उनका पारा चढ़ जाता है. Can we now find the answer? Bolivia and Paraguay. ठीक है? One simple thing which we did right now. We created a memory which is very personalized in the nature. So it is easier for you to recall because now you guys will not forget Bolivia and Paraguay for sure, right? Thus, something we have created a mnemonic which is very individualized, and thus we will be able to retain it, recall it in a given span of time. Clear? Topper suggests for one more thing, है ना? जैसे कबीर कह के गए थे वैसे ही टॉपर कह के गए. What topper have said? That we need to interconnect the themes. The more themes you can interconnect between the subjects, the lesser information you are required to remember. ठीक है? जैसे कि for example from this discussion, Brazil is repeatedly in the news. क्यों? है ना. COP30 is taking place there, called as Belem Summit. ठीक है. Why this COPs, Conference of Parties of UNFCCC, keeps on taking place? What they are discussing there? नाश्ता नहीं करके आए? नहीं, उससे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू वांट टू बिकम एन IPS ऑफिसर हियर? बाकी सबको IAS बनना है. Point is, if either you are going to become an IAS or IPS, ठीक है, in future there might be a basic requirement to handle a crowd, ठीक है, उसके लिए थोड़ी सी गले में आवाज, ठीक. Climate change is the issue which we are tackling, correct? ठीक है. Very recently, so we started our discussion from fundamental rights, है ना. Very recently, the Supreme Court held right against the adverse impact of climate change as a fundamental right, correct? Which fundamental rights? 14 and 21, absolutely correct. In which particular judgment? सुनो, ध्यान से सुनो, है ना. The status of your prelims preparation, है ना. MK Ranjit Singh judgment. Same person, MK Ranjit Singh, has filed another petition 2 days back and is again in the news for preservation of 2 critically endangered species. Which are they? जो भी बोल रहा है दोस्त, perfect. ठीक. Idea ये है that if Supreme Court has held such an important judgment that right against adverse impact, against climate change is our fundamental right, our government might be doing something. Some steps it might be taking in that direction to tackle the climate change. For example, we have set for ourselves a target called as Panchamrit target, right? Actually, I should teach these people. They are actually answering good. Okay, I'm addressing a wrong class here, but koi baat. Point here, Panchamrit target, right? Anybody here can tell me what are the 5 Panchamrit targets?
50% non-renewable, we are going to get the energy source.
नहीं भैया, ये UPSC aspirants है ना. All of these are UPSC aspirants, right? We allowed. अच्छा ठीक. नहीं, मुझे लगा some people were, crowdfunding happened. People were like, चलो देख के आते हैं. You guys are UPSC aspirants. You don't know Panchamrit targets. 5 Panchamrit targets नहीं याद है. Anyone here also? अच्छा, we are going to, let's talk about the larger target. We are going to become a net zero, right? Net zero emission country by which year? 2070. We have said that by the year of 2030, 50% of our total installed power capacity will come from renewable energy. ठीक है? We are going to install 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel based energy. ठीक है? We are going to reduce, right, our total projected carbon emission by 1 billion ton and carbon intensity by 45%. ठीक? I have a question for you. If anyone, any sincere student, unlike you all people, if any sincere student has learned all of these 5 Panchamrit targets, is it important for prelims examination? Yes. Because it is factual in the nature. And by the very virtue of it being factual, it can become a statement in your prelims examination. Ye clear? The same student who has actually learned all of these 5 factual Panchamrit targets, just imagine the quality of answer that person would have written in the mains 2025. यही क्वेश्चन है, right? Review India's climate commitments under Paris Agreement and mention how these have been further strengthened in COP26 Glasgow Summit, where we took these Panchamrit target, updated in 2022, right? Basic idea is that if there is a sincere student who is comprehensively covering the important topics of UPSC, right, who is actually reading the basic fundamental issues, integrating that with the current affair, and learning these factual details in such a way that that person can recall in the pressure condition, that person is not only preparing for prelims but simultaneously for mains examination as well. So if you are sleeping on the prelims aspect of your exam, you are also compromising your mains examination as well. ये clear है? because UPSC is a very non-discriminatory institution. It has not done any watertight separation between prelims and mains. ठीक है, आप लोगों ने अपने माइंड में एक आर्टिफिशियल डेडलाइन सेट कर ली है ना, दिसंबर तक यू गाइस आर मेन स्टूडेंट, है ना, कितना बढ़िया आंसर लिख रहे हो, करेक्ट. My point is, whatever we have studied, take about the climate change, don't you think climate change is right in your face issue? Every single day when you open the newspaper, you come across some or other headlines like this: cloudburst taking place, flash flood taking place, rising sea level taking place, है ना? Let's say there is a student who has analyzed the PYQs and thus identified the favorite areas of UPSC. Knows that yes, UPSC is going to focus a lot on climate change because it is an issue recurring in the newspaper. And thus, basic thing which that person would have done, would have read about the COPs, correct? So that person read about COP 28, which took place in Dubai, correct? Can anybody of you here make a guess how many questions UPSC asked in Prelims 2025 from COP 28? One COP. How many questions they actually framed around it? 4 questions. 8 marks on one COP. But in your mind, UPSC is unpredictable, right? That's what the market noise keep on telling you. Every day you are coming across these articles, and thus UPSC is actually, keep this in mind, much more predictable than you think. है ना? But the point is that you guys will invest reading about some random species discovered in Western Ghats more than the COP 28, which is right in your face. Clear? What they have asked? They asked a question where they talked about a particular declaration on climate and health. What they asked? They said that this declaration of climate and health is a binding declaration. And if any country ends up signing this declaration, then it becomes mandatory for that country to completely decarbonize their health sector. Okay? Assess the possibility, right, of such legally binding treaty, that there is a country which is going to sign it, and then it has to completely decarbonize its health sector. That too in the time period of post-pandemic, right? Where trade protectionism is taking place. Every country is actually focusing upon their own interest, their own development. है ना? Where, let's say, for example, there are developing countries like India, which are actually has much more focus upon growing economically to actually take out a lot of people from poverty basket. We are not that much focused upon decarbonizing our sectors. ठीक? Forget about this. Imagine the irony. ठीक है? Very recently, 2 days back, there was an emission gap report, right? 2024, which was in the news. Every second or third day, there is an article which is coming on emission gap report 2024, which has actually provided us a very important data that India is the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitting country. ठीक है? Emission gap report is released by which organization? Okay, this section is dead. UNEP. Perfect. ठीक. सर मी टाइप आधा कर दिया था, फिर आपने बता दिया. My bad. Point is, this particular report, emission gap report released by UNEP, tells us that India is the 3rd largest GHG emission country. Which is the largest? China. And which is the 2nd largest? The 2nd largest greenhouse gas emitting country has actually withdrawn from Paris Agreement itself. So if Paris Agreement, around which all these COPs are taking place, if that is not legally binding, how this one declaration can be legally binding? Think about it. More importantly, let's say, for example, there is a person, just imagine, just like you people, who does not know about COP, who does not know about Paris Agreement. Okay? This is a layman person. That person is much more invested in such masala news. है ना? Parents of bride and groom run away together. ठीक? If the sacred vows of marriage, that too after 25 to 30 years, if that is not legally binding, then what is the possibility of a declaration being legally binding? इतना common sense लगा सकते हैं? Don't you think that will basically end up encroaching upon our sovereignty? right? The basic principle. Remove the second statement, you directly have the answer. ठीक? One more important thing, one classic UPSC aspirant mistake which you all need to avoid. People end up entering in the examination hall with a lot of knowledge and garbage, and they end up leaving all of their common sense out of the examination hall. ठीक? ये नहीं करना है. So if we do not have absolute knowledge, we also have generalized knowledge for various subjects which we can utilize in this particular section, polity knowledge. We are a sovereign country. Correct? Again, if someone would have analyzed the PYQs, identified the favorite areas, learned concepts, have integrated current affairs, right, and have solved some amount of question, that person would have been very easily able to solve these questions. 4 questions on COP. This one is on Paris Agreement. This one is on COP 28. What was on Nature Solution Finance Hub, Buy Home, Asian Development Bank. ठीक है? 8 marks lying there for you, and this is exactly what has been termed as low hanging fruits by the toppers. ठीक है? Idea is, if someone has done the basics, reading the current affairs, ठीक है, is a sincere student, unlike all of you people, that person might end up solving 30-40 questions. ठीक है? ठीक है, 30-40 questions solve कर लेंगे, but what about the rest 50? ठीक है? Let's take up a case study here, है ना? What is your name? Mahesh. Let's say there is a student A, Mahesh. Mahesh says that to actually cross the safe haven of 100 marks, which you are required to be sure that I am going to clear the prelims examination, Mahesh decides to solve 70 questions. ठीक है? To actually get even close to 100 marks, how much accuracy percentage is required from Mahesh? 80% accuracy. He is actually required to do every 8 out of 10 questions correct, that too in the prelims examination. ठीक है? This is as rare as finding unicorn in Indus Valley civilization. Right? As rare as kind of making sense in Donald Trump speeches. है ना? So there is a second student, Atter. Atter says, I am going to solve 80 questions. ठीक है? She has learned from the mistakes of Mahesh. What is again the accuracy percentage which she is required? 70%. To do 56 questions correct, 24 incorrect, to get close to 100. ठीक? So then there comes a third student, Pallavi. Pallavi learned from the mistake of these two people, says I am going to actually increase the number of attempts, 85 to 90. Thus she requires lesser accuracy than both of these people to actually solve more number of questions. At the same point of time, she can afford to do more number of questions incorrect as well. And even then, she is very easily getting close to the 100 and thus to the safe marks. ठीक? That is the simple idea. Any topper video which you are saying, they will keep on saying 85 to 95. 85 to 95. ठीक? That is the number which we set for ourselves. We will solve 85 to 95 questions. My question to all of you is that let's say, for example, we go into the examination with absolute preparation. ठीक? Hours of study, right? Rigorous work routine, everything. We end up actually solving 60 questions with utmost surety, but there might be at least 20-25 questions where you will not have absolute knowledge, where you will be confused between 1 or 2 statements. ठीक है? है ना? हो सकता है. In that situation, you guys have 2 choices. Either you start leaving such questions from right now itself. है ना? In this test, how many people solve 50 questions? Just look at the hands raised, right? Why you people, the rest of you, left the questions? Why? नहीं आता है, negative marking हो जाएगी. ठीक है? Let's say you score actually 0 marks in this test, है ना? Or you got 100 marks in this test. ढोलपुर हाउस के बाहर फोटो लगने वाली है. So if you will not solve the questions which you don't know or have limited idea about, or you will not apply your common sense right now, how you will actually develop that aptitude of solving the test, solving such questions? है ना? So in the examination hall, there can be 2 situations. One, you have left all such questions at this stage, and you are thinking I will go directly in the prelims examination in that extreme pressure condition, and I will solve all the questions like this there itself. ठीक है? That too in do or die situation. है ना? Gandhi ji said do or die. In which moment? Quit India movement. Trust me, from my years of experience, when a student is put in such do or die situation, 99% of the student die. ठीक? तो miracles का wait नहीं करना है. We need to develop that aptitude. ठीक? Thus, we need to keep on solving questions. Solve so many number of questions that it actually becomes habit to us. To get to such a level of aptitude that we can start thinking from the examiner's perspective. Right? There are 3 statements which the examiner has given. There might be one statement where the examiner has tweaked something, has made certain changes, is trying to trap me, confuse me. What is that? Right? In that particular question, what was the trap? Legally binding. Correct? The idea is that basically we need to develop a basic skill set, and that is to wake up, solve questions, go to sleep. Okay? So if you are preparing for the war, start fighting the war on daily basis as well. Okay? Simple idea. One small hint has been given to all of you at the top of the question. Take the hint, solve the question. There are so many unemployed people in our country. They are actually arguing about baniya hair. See? Take it. Which statement is very easily removable? Kyun? Even in today's test, you guys had certain statements like this, right? Extreme statements. For example, there was a question asked on elephant, hai na? So there was a question, right, which was being asked in today's test, where there were 2 statements only. Elephant is the only animal, right, which has been declared as a vehicle, hai na, under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. And then elephant is the only animal whose private possession is actually allowed. Okay? So do not create such distinctions in your mind that, okay, whenever I will see all and only, I will remove it. Don't do that. If someone has done in today's test, that is actually wrong. Elephant is indeed the only animal whose private possession is still allowed, because you guys can see them on the road. Itna common sense to hai, right? In any, let's say for example, worshipping rituals, we see the elephants, right? So obviously their private possession is indeed allowed. It has been provided as an exception. Correct? Idea is we will use our common sense first. Each and every day you come across articles, India is an import dependent country. Major trade deficit we have with which country? China. What we rely mostly on them? Strategic minerals. So why we are importing so much of minerals if we have resource rich country and we have kind of complete resources for 30 critical minerals? Correct? We would have stopped importing from China. Clear hai? Basic things, some things which we discuss right now, and that is we need to develop the concepts. We need to integrate those concepts with our current affairs. Then whatever we are learning, we need to learn that in such a unique way possible that we can remember it for a very long period of time. Even when this knowledge will backfire, we will have some kind of question solving aptitude to tackle questions in the examination hall. Correct? And ultimately, right, over and above this, there might be a kind of a strategy of solving questions on daily basis, right? So it become a habit for you to solve the question. Absorb the surprise element. Keep this in mind. There is a person who is in the services right now, and that person actually said something to me which I still keep with me, and that is your personality test does not start in the 3rd stage. It starts from the 1st stage itself. Whether you are capable enough to tackle with surprise situations, where you can handle the pressure, right? Where in the constraint of time, in do or die situation, whether you have your presence of mind or not. Itna simple hai. Theek? It was basically these 5 parameters which actually gave birth to the idea of camp. Theek? Idea was basically derived from our very own ancient Indian culture. Theek? You guys might be knowing about a very famous member of parliament, Shashi Tharoor. Theek? Like for us layman people, prelims is a complex paper. For an Oxford graduate, prelims is a convoluted paper. For Shashi Tharoor, prelims is a agatho-cacological paper. Correct? So Shashi Tharoor, once upon a time, when he was actually acting as a diplomat at United Nations, he basically said that our Indian culture is nothing but like a thali. Okay? You have very different dishes, so many religions, customs, traditions, languages, etc. But all of these differences, when actually served together on one plate, it actually acts as such a distinct taste that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. Correct? Society में culture का introduction तैयार हो गया, है ना? Point क्या है? Point ये है that basically when we started deriving the idea of CAM, the idea was to actually make sure that whatever will be taught to you, it will be taught on the basis of concepts. Then, if you have not read the current affairs, which you obviously you guys would have not till now, take it. So the current affair will be integrated there. Then, whatever will be taught to you, it will be taught to you in such a manner that you cannot forget that. So basically, we started working upon a model called as learn and leave. Learn in the class, leave for the examination. And the most important problem which students face towards the prelims, and that is, itna notes bana liya hai, revise kaise karenge, right? So we started developing on a concept where the prelims pointer is provided to you in such a way that it is actually revisable one day before the exam. ठीक? Some of you will be like, sir, मैं नहीं मानता, है ना? Why I should trust you? ठीक? तो एक काम करते हैं, एक छोटा सा कंसेप्ट डेवलप करने की कोशिश करते हैं. ठीक है? अच्छा, how many of you have heard about a person called as William Hawkins? Who was William Hawkins? What? You broke my heart. William Hawkins, the person who arrived in the Mughal court in the year of 1608 as a British ambassador, the first British person to actually arrive in the Mughal court. Okay? When he came and he saw the Jahangir for the first time, he was actually so much impressed by his wealth, right? Jahangir, who at that point of time is wearing 3 most precious diamonds in the world, Darya-e-Noor, Roslo diamond and Kohinoor. He is wearing that, right? Basically, he is wearing the entire GDP of Pakistan right now. है ना? So he was so impressed by this site that he actually wrote a letter back to his Stuart monarch James I, right? Where he said that I have arrived in a court of a king, which is right now controlling 20% population of the world. Right? So population is not a recent issue. It has remained since then. Okay? Also, the country which is actually producing 60% of global textile, and the very same country, by the virtue of it, is also producing 25% of the GDP of the world. Okay? Right now, it is less than 3%. At that point of time, it was 25%. Right? Our textile products were actually so much famous in the world at that point of time that we were causing inflation in the towns of France. Okay? Irony is that the Mughal kings at that point of time did not even knew about the existence of France. Okay? For example, you guys might have heard about another person, Marie Antoinette. किसी को पता है? Yeah. What? Wife तक सही था, बनाया तुमने किसी और की. Louis XVI, right? The Marie Antoinette, who was actually guillotined on 16th of October 1792 in the wake of French Revolution. When she was being guillotined or being killed, she was actually wearing her favorite gown. And that gown was made of a very fine cotton textile called as buffed hawa. So soft that it is woven like air, right? And that was actually made by the villagers of Dhamri village in West Bengal. That was the reach of our textile at that point of time, right? They were making such various such cotton textile products. Abravan, Jamdani, recently it got a GI tag in Bengal, right? Nansuk, Dil Suk, correct? All of these cotton textile products being produced in small handicraft industries of our country. Clear? So much demand was of Indian products, of these cotton textile, cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, spices, paper, etc., that by the year of 1755, the Britishers were actually bringing 1,13,000 euro to our country to actually purchase these products. In which year? 1755. How much? 1,13,000 euro. Modern day valuation of this will be 390 million euro. Just imagine the trade deficit which Britain was incurring at that point of time of 390 million euro just for Indian products. Okay? Idea is that when Indian kings are actually accepting this payment, they are accepting only in gold and silver. Okay? That's why India has been at one point of time was also termed as golden bird, because we were acting as a drainage to all the gold and silver which was being produced in the world. Britishers started saying that, see, we cannot afford this trade, obviously. 390 million euro trade deficit, we cannot afford. So they started working upon an idea to become Atmanirbhar Britain. Okay? They said that what we need to do, they are basically, keep this in mind, a very small island nation. Correct? For example, when American Revolutionary War takes place from 1775 to 1783, right? There was a person named Thomas Paine, wrote a book called as Common Sense, where he argued that it does not make any sense to me that a small island nation is actually ruling over a continent of America. Correct? Being a small island nation, they do not have land to grow raw material. They do not have manpower to do large production of textile. So what they switched to they switched to industrialization. Right? Spinning jenny of James Hargreaves. Steam engine of James Watt. Correct? Leading to what? Mechanized production. One problem is solved. Manpower issue has been handled. But then you have another issue. From where you will actually get raw material. Right? You require cotton, jute, indigo, tea, coffee, rubber. From where you will get this raw material for your industries of Lancashire, Manchester. You have one tropical country with you, and that is America. But Americans have revolted. American Revolutionary War, 13 North American colonies revolt against the British imperialism. They end up losing one tropical country, and that's why India became so important for them. A country which has such vast amount of land and such vast amount of people who can actually grow raw material for their industries. Take it. As the luck would have it, 1764, they end up winning a very important battle, Buxar, and after which a treaty was signed, Allahabad, which actually ended up providing them Diwani rights, right to collect revenue from three most fertile provinces of India at that point of time, Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Take it. So now they can actually coerce the peasants to grow raw material for their industries. Problem is solved. Take it. The height of British mercantilism was that they said that we need to pay revenue to actually kind of procure this raw material. Now we are in no mood to bring that gold and silver which we were bringing, right, till the year of 1755. Now we are not going to bring any money from Britain to India. Rather, we will actually collect taxes from Indians itself, and we will pay for this raw material. Thus, they started their revenue policies. Hana? Thus, as Indians, we basically ended up paying for our own exploitation. Take it. We were paying them, we were growing their revenue crops, they were actually collecting those revenue crops from our own revenue and taking for the industrialization of Britain. Take it. Some of you might be having a dream, to go to London after selection, have a vacation there, right? The infrastructure of London has been built on the blood and bones of your ancestors. Clear? Point kya hai? Point is this, that now when permanent settlement is being launched, by whom? Cornwallis, who was the second Governor General of Bengal from 1786 to 1793, he will introduce a sunset clause in that permanent settlement system. Why? because they need revenue on an exact date at exact time, because they need to take that revenue and pay for the raw material. And if you will not bring me this revenue by this exact date, then your zamindari right will be confiscated. Clear idea hai na? Another question. Can any one of you tell me why we are reading history for UPSC? क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं? ऐसे ही अच्छा लग रहा था. हाँ. A very good quote. A very good quote actually. To actually learn from the mistakes which we have committed in our past, to make sure we do not repeat it in the future. Because history repeats itself first as a tragedy. Correct? Exactly what happened. You guys think that we were basically colonized, or this zamindari system was introduced by Lord Cornwallis because he woke up with a dream of it? No. We started from American Revolutionary War. Correct? In this American Revolutionary War, there was a very important battle called as Battle of Yorktown, 1781. Anyone has heard about it? The most decisive battle that actually decided the winner of American Revolutionary War, in which there was a person you might have heard about, George Washington, the name of which has basically derived into the Washington DC as a capital of USA, the first president of United States of America. George Washington ended up defeating a person whose name was Lord Cornwallis. Lord Cornwallis has been defeated. American colonies has been lost to the British Empire. Take it. As a civil servant, you were deployed to control the riots. You have been unable to do so. Now what will happen? Punishment posting. Correct? So Lord Cornwallis actually got a punishment posting. Where? India. Right? Now go into a hot tropical country. Serve there. Right? So many resources are not there. How it was there at that point of time in London. So when Lord Cornwallis is actually crossing the Cape of Good Hope, he starts thinking about one thing, about the mistake. Because the American revolutionary, who actually revolted against the British Empire, they were originally the British settlers. Right? So why the son has revolted against the mother? What went wrong? Because over a period of time, the Americans, they become so disenchanted with the British rule that they did not had any vested interest in the continuation of the British Empire. Clear? Hai na? So now, Cornwallis is thinking that if we want to rule this Indian culture, about whom we don't know the language, we don't know their custom, their tradition, we actually need to create a class of people which has vested interest in our rule. Right? Existence of a class which is entirely dependent on British rule. And that's why he introduced the permanent settlement system. Okay? Where he says that now the zamindar is actually going to become the proprietor. Okay? I do not have any interest, I am not here to rule. I am only here to collect revenue because I have to pay for the raw material. है ना? थोड़ा सा understanding. Okay? So you as a zamindar, you have the right over all the land. Okay? My only demand from you is, okay, how much land do you have? ऐसे बताना नहीं होता है. My point is that, let's say for example, if you are a small and marginalized farmer in our country, okay, then as per this classification, how much land do you have? Less than 2 hectares. Absolutely correct. And how many percentage of farmers are there in our country like this? 86%. Correct? Check. Let's say he has 2 hectares of land. And from that 2 hectares of land, he is growing 100 kg of rice. Okay? Britishers said our revenue demand is very simple. From the zamindar. Okay? Anybody who wants to vouch for become a zamindar in the class? Good. Okay, I like the concept. So now there is a person, zamindar, she is going to collect 45%. Okay? 45% कितना होगा? 45 kg. Correct? Britishers are saying that, see, from this 45 kg, you just give us 10 by 11th part of it. 89%. Okay? So basically 10 by 11th of 45 kg becomes सी सेट भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा, ठीक है। 40 kg है ना, what is left for you? 5 kg, correct? Britishers are saying that this 40 kg demand of our is permanently fixed, ठीक है. So from next 10 years, from now to next 10 years, we are going to demand only how much? 40 kg from you. It is fixed, permanently settled. Is this a new invention on Indian soil? White shirt. Is this a new invention? Which invention we are talking about? Recently we are talking about, right, that 2 species we have discovered, Western Ghats. Correct. Is this a new invention, anyone? So is it being derived from history again? Because in medieval time period, you guys read about a system called as the Sala system. Invented by whom? Todormal. Todormal was the finance minister of Akbar. Akbar went to Todormal, said, I want to be the richest king of Asia. Todormal said, कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है, मुझे सब आता है, मैं एक्सपर्ट हूँ, ठीक. We are going to create the Sala system. State will calculate your revenue demand, will fix it for the Sala, 10 years. Same thing Britishers are doing. 40 kg demand is now fixed from next 10 years. They are expecting some basic expectations from her. Take what? She will, as a Jamidar, start investing in fertilizers, irrigation, provide high yield variety seeds, provide pesticides, right? The classic features of green revolution, correct? They are expecting her a basic expectation that please do green revolution. You increase this 100 kg production to 120 kg. Okay? Their demand is fixed at 40 kg. So now there is extra production of 20 kg. So as a Zamidar, she can actually keep this 20 kg as well. So Cornwallis thought, I have brought a revolution. Zamidars will start investing in agriculture, will lead to increase in production for their own wealth. Thus the concept of private property developed. Now this Zamidar is proprietor, all of you, because you did not choose to become Zamidar. So you are basically poor peasants, tenants, है ना? All of you are required to pay rent to her. If you don't give rent to her, she has complete authority to evict you from your land. Check. At the same point of time, if she will not bring me the rent, right, sunset clause on a certain date, I am going to evict her as well. And I will actually auction this land now in the market to the highest bidder. Ye concept clear hai? Problem starts taking place when she as a Zamidar says that 5 kg is more than enough for me. I can survive in 3 kgs. So she appoints another person on behalf of her that, you know what, you collect 5 kg, give 3 kg to me, keep 2 kg to you. Right? He was like, I have never seen this much of rice. And 2 kg is more than enough for me. I can survive in 1 kg, transfer to you. Patni tenures start taking place, right? A subsidiary system of Zamidari actually extending up to the chains of 18 people at one point of time, right? That is the idea. Now my simple question to all of you is, there is Zamidar, you all are the villagers. If I leave the policing system to her as well, don't you think tomorrow when I will go to ask her the rent, she has the police, she has the villagers, she has the money, she has the revenue, ठीक है? वो मुझे basically मार के भगा देगी, correct? So obviously I need to create an independent police system to keep a check on her. What Cornwallis does, introduce a Thana system, correct? In Thana system, what he does, he says this is a district. District will be divided into Thanas, ठीक है? Thanas will be held by which person? यहां से हम लोग निकलेंगे, सीधे गंगाराम हॉस्पिटल जाएंगे, ठीक है, ब्लड चेक कराएंगे, ठीक है, पूछना है कि यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट हैं या नहीं, ठीक। उसके बाद क्या करेंगे, थोड़ा सा चुल्लू भर पानी लेंगे, ठीक है। आगे का प्रोसेस आई होप इट इज क्लियर फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू, ठीक। थाना सिस्टम, थानास विल बी हेडेड बाय daroga. Daroga will be an Indian, but overall in charge of this district will be superintendent of police, from where we started our discussion today. Do you guys want to become an IPS officer? If you will become an IPS officer, you will be appointed as superintendent of police. The irony is you don't even know the history of it, ठीक है। What we did, we basically learnt a concept. Permanent settlement system याद रहेगा, है ना। If we move to this question now, revenue demand was fixed in perpetuity for the zamindars, yes. Second, zamindars lost their power to organize local justice and local police. UPSC level question 2024, very difficult question. Raiyatwari settlement system exempted from revenue payment, ठीक। We don't know about Raiyatwari system, but we have watched a movie called as Lagan. दोगुना लगान देना पड़ेगा, that too when drought is taking place. Do you think Britishers who are actually here to collect revenue, they are so kind to actually exempt the people from taxes? Second, permanent settlement system, if zamindar fails to pay his revenue, then he will be removed from zamindari. A problem arises here. Problem is what? This question was actually removed by UPSC altogether. Can anybody tell me why? Any person who wanted to serve in intelligence bureau, है ना, थोड़ा सा intelligence, there is a fundamental flaw in the question. Can anybody identify that? And I can guarantee all of you know this as well. Anybody online? With reference to revenue collection by Cornwallis. Cornwallis only introduced permanent settlement system. Raiyatwari was introduced by Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro. I am not saying this. UPSC asked it. ठीक, 2017 question. Same permanent settlement system, 1793. Almost this same issue of revenue collection under permanent settlement system actually has been asked by UPSC for more than 7 to 8 times. We identified an important theme. We discussed the concept. The statement now becomes easier for you to solve. Clear? A simple idea which I'm trying to instill in all of you is that if anyone would have analyzed this theme, would have read about it, it was actually a very easy question for these students to solve. यहां तक क्लियर है? आइडिया ये था, हमने बोला प्रीलिम से पहले you guys will actually be covering your factual things as well as integration of current affair. So if permanent settlement system is given in your new NCRTs or if they have been given in your reference books, ठीक है, they will be taught to you word by word. Correct? Simple idea is towards the examination, for the examination, you guys will get a prelims pointer sheet like this. ठीक? So in the class, we developed the concept. You have all the facts written for you right before the prelims examination to do a quick revision. ठीक? Some of you will have a question now that, sir, what about Raiyatwari and Mahalwari? ठीक है? So there is a concept which we called as trailer and movie. ठीक है? This was the trailer and the movie will be taught to you in the camp. ठीक है? I will leave the stage for the next subject matter expert, right, who is going to come here and discuss the next subject. ठीक है? All the questions, if you guys have any doubts, remain till the last. The last subject matter expert is going to take all of your doubts. ठीक है? चलो.
Am I audible clearly? Everyone? So, coming to economics, I know every one of you is terrified of economics. Yes or no? No? Great then. We'll be solving some of the questions. We'll see that how many of you understand the economics very well. See, when it comes to economics, majority of the students, since they don't have a background in economics, more or less they are fearful of economics. But the first thing that you need to understand is when it comes to economics, just focus upon the basic concepts. If you are clear with the concepts, and whenever you are reading any concept, you understand the things in a cause and effect relationship. That okay, if this is going to increase, why the other variable is going to decrease, or why it is going to increase. So whenever we'll be reading economics, we'll be reading in cause and effect relationship. Okay, we'll be focusing upon the concepts. And one more thing, when it comes to economics, don't be terrified of the data. When you're reading the newspaper, I've seen students are mad collecting a lot of data point with respect to different variables. कि अच्छा inflation ऊपर गया, inflation नीचे आया. Yesterday only inflation went down to 0.25%. Okay, now a lot of people will start making a note of that. That okay, inflation, retail inflation gone down to this point. No need. All you have to keep in mind is that okay, a particular variable is coming down. Okay, when you look at the prelims questions, when you talk about mains, you will be talking about in prelims you will be getting the decadal trend related questions. Okay, they'll not be asking ki, acha, is month mein tell me what was the CPI. Do you get such kind of questions? No, you will be getting decadal trend related questions. Okay, when it comes to mains, yes, therein also you will be showing the trend. You will not say that okay, in this month the retail inflation went down. So don't be mad behind data point. When it comes to data point, from where we'll be collecting that? Anyone? All you have to cover is economic survey. Economic survey gives you the summary of the entire trend with regard to different economic variables. Clear? Okay, so no need to jot down that whether retail inflation went down further or not. Just keep in mind so that you understand that why the MPC is taking a particular decision. Okay, we need to be clear with why the MPC is taking a particular decision. Okay, now when it comes to economics, if you just relate the things with your basic life, you will never get the questions incorrect. For example, when I'm studying fiscal policy, if I just relate the things with my own home, that how a budget is financed in my home, okay, can I relate the revenue receipt that I'm getting with the regular salary which my family members are earning? Can we equate that? Yes or no? If my family is selling some asset, what kind of a receipt that would be? Can anyone tell me? Capital receipt. If my family is making the expenditure on food, paying the rent, paying the electricity bill, what kind of expenditure would that be categorized as? Revenue expenditure. If my family is buying some shop, what kind of expenditure would that be? Capital expenditure. If I just relate the government budget with how my how the finances are taken care of in my house, will I get the questions incorrect? So just relate economics with your own life. Okay, when you start connecting it with the common life, okay, you will not be getting the questions incorrect. For example, inflation. A lot of time you're confused ki which thing would be leading to demand pull inflation, which would be leading to cost push inflation. Yes or no? So what we have to focus upon, and especially I've seen students getting confused in this BOP chapter, depreciation, appreciation. What do you have to keep in mind when it comes to appreciation, depreciation? Depreciation implies what? Reduction in price of a currency. When the price of any commodity goes down, can anybody tell me? With respect to demand and supply? Supply is more than demand. You just have to keep this thing in mind and you will not be getting questions incorrect. That we'll be seeing how. Okay, now coming to the sources, I have seen students are very much confused when it comes to sources for economics. But first thing that you need to keep in mind is you are not supposed to ignore the basic NCERTs. Why? We'll be looking at that also. Majority of the questions that we have seen in 2024, 2025, previously also. I'll be telling you that how you can tackle them if you have just covered the basic NCERTs. Is it clear to everyone in the online, students who are attending from the online? And for advanced reading, what all other material can we refer to? Either you can refer to Vajiram yellow books, which are there. Okay, 2 books are there. Or you can refer to, it is misspelled, Jain Parikshit sir book. Okay, which is your faculty also in Vajiram. Okay, he's a renowned faculty. So you can cover this. This book would be catering to both prelims as well as mains. Okay, so apart from the book, the topics which are well covered in this book, all you have to cover is the current affairs themes which are coming up. Okay. And for data point, what all source we'll be referring? Budget and economic survey. And now, one interesting thing also. The students who think that they know more economics and they want to read a lot, they try to cover this entirely. Is it actually needed to read budget from cover to cover, to read economic survey from cover to cover? The students who are having economics as an optional, for them it is advisable that you read it, okay? Because when it comes to the economic survey related summary or the budget related summary, that would be enough to deal with the GS related questions. But the students who are having economics as an optional, for them they need to read it from cover to cover, okay? Because they have to read it from a different perspective. For others, like you people who just are reading it from GS point of view, for you, if you just listen to the summaries which are provided, more or less we are prepared for both pre and mains. Okay, then you can, for any concept, you can refer to the government website Arthapedia, and for you need to follow the current affairs, and monthly basis pay you can follow the recital. This is the source, but the basic source that we'll be focusing upon is the NCERTs, because that is the foundation. Now the question which might be coming in your mind, that on why NCERTs? Because this is the question which majority of the students, whenever we give the mentoring, the students ask us that, ma'am, why NCERTs? Here is the answer. These 2 questions asked in 2024. Tertiary sector, primary sector, secondary sector, where it is covered? Class 9th NCERT. Working capital, fixed capital, where it is covered? 9th, 10th NCERT. And if you have not revised this thing, you will get such a basic question incorrect. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between fixed capital and the working capital? You have read the NCERTs? Tell me the basic difference. What? Another process. Working capital. And what is fixed capital? No. Now you understood why I asked that what is the difference between working capital and fixed capital? You will be getting such a basic question incorrect in the exam. Are you getting my point? So that is the reason, please go back and revise your NCERTs thoroughly. What is fixed capital? A capital which would not be used in one production cycle, which would be used on a longer period, okay? Which I can use in multiple production cycle. What is working capital? Which would get consumed in one production cycle only. Like your petrol, okay? Like the yarn used by a weaver. It is not for a longer term. So if you don't have the clarity with respect to these basic concepts, you will be getting such basic questions incorrect. So it's my humble request, please go back and revise your NCERTs. This year, 2025, 3 questions which you can directly deal with if you have read the physical policy chapter in your NCERT thoroughly. And majority of the students would have got confused in these questions. Don't worry, I'll be discussing these 3 questions. I'll be giving you and I'll be explaining you certain concepts with respect to fiscal policy. Here I'm just telling you that why NCERTs form the base. Again, this question, if you have understanding of what is fiscal deficit, what is primary deficit, can we solve this question easily? Anyone? So, do you understood my point that why I emphasized upon these 2 things? That whenever I am reading economics, first thing that I have to focus upon is concepts. And here when I'm reading the concepts, it should not be in the rectification mode. If you try to mug up economics, you will get the question definitely wrong. So what is the approach to read economics? Anyone? Why there's a silence? Very good. Application based. You have to read it in cause and effect relationship. And how to do that, I'll be explaining in this very session only. And to build your foundation, what we need to cover and revise multiple times, that is your NCERT. This year, 2024 also, we have seen that how questions are directly coming from the NCERT. So please don't ignore them. This question again, in this question, third and second statement, it might be confusing for a lot of students. Now you would be thinking that, ma'am, why you have kept this, that this could be addressed to NCERTs? Yes or no? Just read statement number 1. Tell me whether it is correct or incorrect. It is correct? Incorrect. Why? Inflation. What do we understand by inflation? Inflation कब होगा? Inflation सिर्फ money supply से नहीं होता. Basic reason of inflation is aggregate demand is way more higher than aggregate supply. Every concept that you will be reading in economics, just cover it in form of demand and supply. You will never forget that concept. Now, if inflation is too high, that means we are demanding more. When you will be demanding more? I'm not talking about mad people who would be ready to sell their kidneys to buy iPhone. But normally, when you will be having money in your pockets, only then you will be demanding any commodity or service. Yes or no? So, if more money is there in my pocket, so in order to tackle inflation, what RBI has to do? Get that money out of my pocket? Simple logic. How it would get that money out of my pocket? By selling me something. Then it would be selling me government securities. Then only I'll be giving that money to the RBI. Yes or no? So will it buy government securities or sell government securities? And just look at this. If you get this statement incorrect, you arrive at the right answer, that is B. You don't even have to look at the statement number 2 and statement number 3. Got my point? That why you need to focus upon the basic concepts. Again, point proved. This question. Have we read about the different kinds of reserves which the bank has to maintain? In our NCERTs, we read that. And whenever we will be increasing CRR or SLR, does it enhances the bank ability to increase the money supply? It reduces that. And what the question is saying, money is getting multiplied. That is what money multiplier is. That bank is able to multiply that money. And we are saying that it is increasing. So in this, what would be the correct answer? C. Why C? Why not D? Confused. I know you all know the answer. You must have seen this. But why not D? Can anybody tell me? If anyone can tell me why not D, that means that person understands the concept of money multiplier. More, yes, you're more or less close. If my population is increasing, but then also majority of the section of my population prefer to keep the money in their home lockers. If that money is not reaching to the bank, how the bank would be able to multiply that money? Getting my point? So merely increase in population, not improved banking habits would not lead to increase in money multiplier. That tells me that when I'm reading economics, I should not ratify the concepts. Always read with an application point of view. Clear? Now, how to approach economics? This would be another question. Clear, ma'am, we'll be focusing upon NCERTs. We will be reading in an application point of view, cause and effect relationship. We have studied the sources also that, okay, these are sources you need to refer. Now, how to approach a particular topic? For that, the first thing that I'll be doing is, what I need to do? Analyze the PYQs. Plus, what more I need to do? In order to understand that, what are the prominent topics from which I'm getting the question? Can anybody tell me apart from PYQs? Keep an eye on the current affairs. Whatever concept would be there in the current affairs, you will be getting a question. For example, e-rupee was in news. So you got a question in 2024, right? Yes or no? So these two things, if you keep an eye on, you will be able to do the topic listing, that on what all topics I can expect a question in economics when it comes to this particular topic. Okay, here I have done the topic listing for the monetary policy, and here I have done the topic listing for the fiscal policy. You can just go through it. Okay, now in camp, what is the benefit of joining the camp? Here we'll not just be solving the 50 questions that we'll be providing to you in a particular test. We'll also enable that we together will be revising that particular concept. So first we'll be revising that concept. Secondly, we'll be looking into PYQs with respect to that particular topic, so you do get the idea that from this particular topic what kind of a question I'll be expecting, and then we'll be solving the questions. And questions, when it comes to explanation, the person who will be taking the discussion, he would not just be telling you the explanation which you will be getting in the solution part. Okay, the person would be telling you that how by using common sense you can get that question correct. Okay, so that X factor you will be getting. That for when it comes to economics, I'll be telling you, whichever discussion I'll be taking, I'll be telling you that how you are supposed to understand that concept, okay, in a cause and effect relationship. Now let's just understand this with the help of fiscal policy, because this year 3 questions were there. I'll be telling you that how you can solve that question effectively. I'll be proving all the points that I said initially. Now when it comes to fiscal policy, does it relate with RBI or your government? Government, okay, how it manages it? Finances. Now, when the government would be going with expansionary fiscal policy, when it would be putting money in the economy, when there is a recessionary kind of conditions, and what all 2 tools the government is having? What happened? Taxes and spending. These are the 2 tools, right? So when it comes to your expansionary fiscal policy, what the government would be doing here? It has to put money in the economy. What it can do? Reduce the taxes, fine, and increase the spending. Yes. Now, can anybody tell me how this reduction in taxes or increase in government spending would improve the recessionary condition, bring the economy on track? Just with one tool you can explain. Very good. Who talked about disposable income? Very good. So when I'm reducing the taxes, what happens? My disposable income increases. What is disposable income? Very good. Once you have paid the taxes, whatever income you are left with, that is your disposable income. So when taxes have reduced, my disposable income increase. So previously, if you were going to restaurant 2 times in a month, since your disposable income has increased, you might be visiting or going to the restaurant 5 times or 6 times. So when you're going to restaurant 6 times, what are you doing? You are actually demanding the goods. And that's how the aggregate demand would increase. And that is what the government has to do. When it comes to spending, how this would correct the situation? Can anybody explain me that? If the government is spending, that means, yes, very good. If the government is spending, let's suppose on Manrega, it has increased its outlay. That means it is putting money in your pocket. So your income is increasing. If your income is increasing, what you will do? You will be demanding more goods and services. Okay. Then coming to contractionary fiscal policy, when the government would be adopting this, contractionary basically means sucking out the money out of the economy. Clear? When we would be adopting this contractionary fiscal policy, when we are witnessing inflation. Okay. So inflation, what did we study right now? When we'll be witnessing inflation? When aggregate demand is way more higher than the aggregate supply. So in contractionary fiscal policy, what I'm targeting? Aggregate demand. Okay. So what I'll be doing here? I'll be reducing the government expenditure. So the money which the government was earlier spending on Manrega, it would reduce its outlay. So income would reduce, and ultimately you will stop demanding. Okay. Previously you were going 6 times to the restaurant. Yeah, now you will be going merely 2 times. Another tool which the government is having, that is taxation. So what we will be doing in contractionary fiscal policy? Increase the taxes. And how it would work? Now I want you people to tell me. Reduce the disposable income. Then what would happen because of that? Very good. Now you understand that how to read in cause and effect relationship. Everyone clear with it? If you try to understand economics in this manner, I can guarantee you, you will never get a question incorrect. Okay, coming to the components of budget, we have two parts, that is revenue budget and the capital budget. Can anybody tell me the basic difference between the two? No. Asset and liability, just keep this thing in mind. This is the basic difference. Revenue budget does not impact the asset and liability of the government. Capital budget always would be impacting the asset and liabilities of the government. Okay. Now, when I talk about revenue receipt, it would not increase the liability, nor it would lead to reduction in assets. Okay. Revenue receipt is basically the money which the government is getting from imposing the taxes, or non-tax revenue also. Like for example, if the PSU are making profits, they would be giving the dividends to the government. What is revenue expenditure? Salaries. If the government is giving paying interest on the past loans, that is also a revenue expenditure. If the government is giving grants to the states, that is also a revenue expenditure. Now I want you to tell me why the interest payments which the government is giving on past loans and the grants which the central government is giving to the state governments, which the state governments might be using for creation of any capital asset, why it is categorized as revenue expenditure? Anyone? Very good. Because interest payment is a kind of recurring payment. It is not reducing my ultimate liability. I have not repaid the entire loan. And when it comes to grants, why it is taken as a part of revenue expenditure? Can you tell me? Because when the center government gives the grant to the states, the central government do not know that whether the state government would be using it for capital creation or not. Okay. When it comes to capital budget, always it would be impacting the asset and the liability. Okay. When it comes to capital receipt, what would happen here? What would happen to government's liability? Will it increase or decrease? Silence. Why silence? Increase the liability. So one kind of capital receipt is borrowings. So that increases my liability. Another form of capital receipt is disinvestment. So that is leading to reduction in the assets. Okay. When it comes to capital expenditure, how asset and liability would change? Just the reverse. Capital expenditure, what would happen? Asset would increase. Okay. Capital expenditure, if I am creating or if I am buying a profitable company, that way I am increasing my assets. If I am putting in place infrastructure, that is going to add to the productive capacity of the economy. So asset is going to increase. And when it comes to liability, what would happen? Example? Repayment of the entire loan. So that is why interest payment coming here, repayment of the entire loan coming under the capital expenditure. I hope this is clear to all of you. Now, coming to the core demand on which 3 questions were asked directly this year. Different kind of budgetary deficits. Okay, first is your revenue deficit, which is very simple. Jitna zyada aapka revenue expenditure hoga as compared to your revenue receipt, that is your revenue deficit. Clear? What is your fiscal deficit? This is the most confusing part for a lot of students. Fiscal deficit is, here we'll be taking into account total expenditure. That means I'll be taking into account the capital expenditure plus the revenue expenditure. But when it comes to receipts, I would not be taking into account all the receipts. I'll be only taking into account the revenue receipts plus the capital receipts, which is non-debt creating. Okay, that means the borrowings. Okay, because that is also part of the capital receipts, that I would not be taking into account here. So when it comes to fiscal deficit, what it is actually telling me? The total borrowings done by the government, which could be on account of two reasons. What are those two reasons? One reason is in front of you. One reason is, in the current year, the government expenditure is greater than the government receipts. This is one reason. Second reason is, it also has to repay the interest on the past loans. So these two elements would be a part of your fiscal deficit. So the entire borrowing done by the government to meet these two demands would be your fiscal deficit. Clear? Now, what is primary deficit? Formula to I know everyone can rectify. And since you try to rectify this this formula, you will be getting one of the PYQ incorrect. That is the reason you need to understand the concept from an application point of view. When it comes to primary deficit, the formula is in front of us. That fiscal deficit minus the interest payment. What the primary deficit is actually implying? I told you fiscal deficit is for two reasons. One reason is, in the current year, expenditure is greater than the receipts. Second reason is for interest payments on the past loan. So if I'm reducing the interest payment, then can anybody tell me what this primary deficit is actually showing? The borrowings done by the government, because in this present year, expenditure is greater than the receipt. Okay, so that is what is reflected by your primary deficit. I hope now nobody would be getting confused in this particular concept. And the last deficit is effective revenue deficit. Previously in the FRBM Act, we talked about reducing this revenue deficit to zero. You must have read this in the FRBM Act. But then in 2012-13, we came up with this idea of effective revenue deficit. Why? Because I told you, remember, in the in this revenue expenditure, grants given by the center to the states, which the states might be using for creation of capital assets, it was also a part of the revenue expenditure. Yes or no? So then we came up with this idea that we don't have to bring the revenue deficit to zero. We actually have to reduce this effective revenue deficit to zero. So how will we be getting this effective revenue deficit? From revenue deficit, we will be reducing whatever grants the central government has given to the states and which the state government are using for creation of capital assets. Why we are reducing this? Because this is also adding to the productive capacity of the economy. Okay. Now, having understood the different kinds of deficit, let's go back to the PYQ and see how much you people have been able to understood. Okay. This is the first PYQ. Now, having understood the idea of capital budget and revenue budget, tell me what would be the answer in this question. Read the question properly. And we'll be ending the session within 5-10 minutes. Online students also, please let me know the answer to this question number 10. First statement is talking about capital receipts. What did we studied about capital receipts? It either increases the liability or leads to a reduction in assets. And that is what I think the statement is saying. Second statement. This is relating to capital receipts only. Borrowing represents what? Increase in liability. Disinvestment represents reduction in asset. That is what we studied in the definition of capital receipt. What about statement number 3? Interest received by the central government on the loans which it might have given to the state government or somebody else. Is it a liability? No. So this would be coming under revenue receipts. Very good. That means you people have understood the concept. So answer here would be A. Okay. First and second is correct. Now tell me the answer to this question. This you will be able to solve only when you have understood the concept, not ratify them. So the first deficit which we are getting is revenue deficit. What is the formula of revenue deficit? Revenue expenditure minus the revenue received. So what is the revenue expenditure given here? 80,000. And the revenue receipt, 60,000 crore. So just minus it, you will get 20,000. This is correct. Then let's leave the fiscal deficit right now. Primary deficit. What did we study about primary deficit? Fiscal deficit minus the interest payments. So what is given here? The government showed a borrowing of 10,000 crore. So this is the total borrowing. And how much amount we are giving for interest payment? 6,000. So what should be the primary deficit? 4,000. This is correct. And what would be the fiscal deficit here? Will it be 10,000 or 16,000? Think. It would be 10,000 only. Because this 10,000 also includes this 6,000. Okay. So answer here would be D. All right. Now let's move on to the last question. This. Just quickly tell me what would be the answer in this case. Now, whosoever would have mug up this definition that fiscal deficit does not include non-debt creating capital receipt would first do this mistake that that person would be deducting this 10,000 crore from this 50,000 crore. This non-debt creating capital receipt has been given just to confuse you. UPSC has already told you that what is the total fiscal deficit. How do we get to the primary deficit? Just we have to deduct the borrowing done by the government to pay the interest on the past loans. And then you get the correct answer. That is A. I hope now you all understood that what all pointers we discussed. Why did I told you that you need to focus upon the concepts first? You have to get your concepts clear by reading your NCERTs thoroughly. Okay. And whenever we'll be reading the concept, we'll try to read it in application point of view. Okay. These two questions I'm leaving for you people to solve. Okay. Just a minute. Tell me what would be the answer here. What is negative output gap? When our potential GDP is higher than the actual one. So actual GDP is less. So when actual GDP is less, that means demand would be higher or less? Less. So this statement would be correct? No. This statement would be correct? Yes. Actual GDP is less than potential GDP. And third statement, will it be correct? Yes. That means the economy is performing at lesser level than its maximum potential. Like you people, you do have the potential to read much, but in actuality, you are reading less. Okay, last, this I have taken deliberately because we right now studied about fiscal policy. Tell me whether this would be correct or incorrect. Is it correct or incorrect? Negative output gap, right now we studied that this is referring to a recessionary kind of situation. So in recessionary kind of situation, will the government be following a contractionary fiscal policy? No, it would be following expansionary fiscal policy. That is why this statement would be incorrect. So answer here would be B, only 2. Similarly, this tax to GDP ratio. What does tax to GDP ratio tells us? How much tax revenue the government is able to get, okay, given the performance or the size of your economy. Size of your economy is GDP. So in which economies you usually would be getting a higher tax to GDP ratio? जहाँ पे tax collection बहुत better हो. Majority of the sector would be your formal sector. If informal sector is high, then the tax to GDP ratio would be less because majority of the sectors are not under the ambit of the taxation system. And that is what is the sorry state of India. We are the 4th largest economy world over, but you look at the tax to GDP ratio of India, it is 11 to 12%. Whereas if you look at the tax to GDP ratio of OECD countries, it is more than 30%. Why? Because larger formal sector is there and the taxation system is very good. So tax evasion is not at all possible. Now, based on this, can anybody tell me what would be the correct answer here? Developed countries would be having a higher tax to GDP ratio, right? Countries with large informal sector tend to have lower tax to GDP ratio, the state with India. And this statement, will it be correct? Why? Even though their GDP might be higher, but if they are tax haven, the tax rates would be less. So even though their GDP is performing well, the tax that they'll be correcting, that would be less. Okay, so here we'll not be getting a higher tax to GDP ratio, rather the tax to GDP ratio would be less. So correct answer would be A, 1 and 2 only. Similarly, this PYQ, just quickly tell me why the second statement is incorrect. I'm giving you the answer itself. Why the second statement is incorrect, just give me the explanation. If you can tell me that, that means you have understood this concept. No. No. Recall your macroeconomics chapter related to income accounting. What are the criticism with respect to GDP as a measure of welfare? Able to connect to that? When it comes to GDP, does it tell you anything about the distribution of income? So if GDP is not telling you, how can tax to GDP ratio tell you that? Clear? This brings me to the end of this particular session. So what things that we discuss, I'll be just summarizing that in 2-3 minutes. When it comes to economics, what is the thing that we need to focus upon? Concepts. And you don't have to mug up the concepts. You always have to read the concept in an application point of view. If you will read in cause and effect relationship, if you will connect all the concept with respect to demand and supply, you will never get the questions incorrect. Never try to rectify the concept. If you rectify them, you will be getting questions incorrect. And in order to make your concept strong, you need to cover the NCERTs thoroughly. And whenever you are reading a particular concept, always relate it with the associated concepts. Like if I would have been reading tax to GDP ratio, I would also be covering what is tax buoyancy, because that is also related with tax to GDP ratio. I'll also be covering what is tax elasticity. Getting my point? So always read it in, this associational manner. And when it comes to camps, the way we discussed right now, the same sort of discussion, quality discussion, you will be getting in the camp also. We'll not just be discussing the solutions to the question. We will make you revise that particular topic in brief, given the time constraint that we have. But we make sure that if you attend the session properly, you will get your doubts clarified. The fundamentals would get clear. And if you get that clear, you will not be getting question incorrect. Okay, so we'll be revising the concept. We'll be also looking into the PYQs, and then we'll be solving the questions. Okay, we will be telling you some tricks, okay, based on the common sense, but we do not completely rely on the tricks, because ultimately it's a core fundamental knowledge that would enable you to apply the guesswork. Okay, that's all from my side. Next, Aditya sir would be taking up the polity session. Can you come outside, because the session needs to continue.
Your test started in the morning, 11 o'clock. बताइए, इतना देर हो गया. So you have been sitting for more than 2.5 hours. तपस्या है भाई, तपस्या करनी पड़ेगी. See, I know you guys must be tired, right? First of all, hello everyone. My name is Aditya, and I know you are tired. Your stomach is more active, I believe, than your mind. But still, just wait. I won't take much of your time. Reason being, see, you go to the YouTube, you will have thousands of strategies for polity, right? Or YouTube कहीं पे भी. My objective is not to discuss the strategies. ठीक है? My objective is to discuss one very important thing: philosophy. मतलब philosophy as such, it doesn't come in the examination, but philosophy as a word is very important. Can anyone just tell me what is philosophy? Study of, or what is philosophy in general? Huh? Search for wisdom. Okay. See, this is going to be really very important, and I'm telling you, not just for the sake of prelims. Prelims nikal bhi gaya. Even if you qualify prelims, what after that? Because ultimately, what is going to decide? Mains. Mains is going to decide your future. Samjho, prelims is a gate pass. You score 180 out of 200. Assuming that you are qualifying CSAT. Please pay attention, important. Let's assume that you are scoring 180 out of 200. Or let's say you're scoring 150. Or let's say you're scoring 95. If the cutoff is 85, does anything matter? नहीं है ना. ठीक है, खुशी होगी, अच्छा लगेगा यार 150 नंबर लेके आया भाई. ठीक है, but what really matters is how you perform in the main examination. So my objective is to tell you that whenever you are studying, abhi, right now we are somewhere in the mid of November, your objective has to be a holistic study. Samjho. Don't study anything for the sake of studying, for the sake of facts. Study everything in its entirety, in overall comprehension. ठीक है? Now, when I'm talking about this aspect, ठीक है, ठीक है, हाथ जोड़ो, अरे, ठीक है. So, see, we'll begin with the very starting. As I said, philosophy. We need to understand कि भाई philosophy क्या examination की. Philosophy, I think I've already told. In this examination, if you're a person, and this is a golden mantra, just always remember, especially for polity. If you are studying polity for the sake of prelims, you will never clear mains. If you are studying polity for the sake of prelims, you will never clear mains. Khatam. If you are studying polity for the sake of mains, you will always clear prelims. ठीक है? Because prelims क्या होता है? What? Mains is about why. The analysis. What is joint sitting? Or let's say, what is an ordinance? Prelims wala aspect. Why the government has been taking this particular alternative more and more. That is why. ठीक है? If your why is clear, it means your what is already clear. For polity, this is the very mantra you should always remember. Understand everything from the perspective of the analysis. ठीक है? Now, as I said, कि भाई, we'll be talking about the philosophy part. When we talk about polity, this is something which we should always refer to. We have Baba Lakshmikant and other books, so many things, right? But the basis has to be Constitution of India. Reason being, if you look at the kind of questions we have been getting in the examination, many of the questions, you have the statement directly taken from the Constitution itself. As a part of the article, right? The provisions of the constitutions, the examiner or whoever is setting the paper, they directly take the statement from the Constitution. Now, can anyone tell me that what is the philosophy of the Constitution? Huh? भारत के संविधान की जो philosophy है, वो क्या है? Where it is mentioned? ठीक है? We'll just discuss preamble today. ठीक है? Tension नहीं, बिल्कुल basic चीज. So we have the preamble to the Constitution of India, which talks about the philosophy. Many of the constitutional experts have said that preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. It tells the ideals which are enshrined in the Constitution itself. It tells about our aspirations, जो हम चाहते हैं, what we really want to be. It tells us about the mindset of our constitution makers. ठीक है? K.M. Munshi, Pandit Thakur Das Bhargava, and the other renowned scholars, they have used various terms, key to the minds of constitution. Now, let's go through the preamble. ठीक है? पढ़ते हैं इसको. The preamble says, we the people of India, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Mind that it is just one word. There is no comma over here. Choti choti, lekin moti baat hai. Means what? You have to look at this particular abstract as one whole. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. कभी सोचा पहले? Otherwise हमेशा लगता है ना comma लगा के पढ़ेंगे. No. What does sovereign implies? चलो उससे पहले, we the people means what? That we are saying something to ourselves. ठीक है? Sovereign means what? Yes, please. अरे actively बताओ 20-25 minutes maximum. You will have a very good understanding. No external influence. Autonomy. Exactly. That we are neither a dependency nor a dominion. We are capable to take our own decisions. That's what sovereignty is all about. Both internal as well as externals. इसका एक और मतलब है, one more aspect, that India is free to acquire any territory. We don't need anybody's permission. We don't need Modi ji calling Trump that we are going to do something. Trump may say it. I have done it. But the reality is that we are sovereign. Next, socialist. Socialist. So why, again, you must have heard the debate around socialist and secular. थोड़े दिन पहले हुआ था. We'll also talk about that. Bhai, what is this aspect of socialist? Nationalization बोल रहे हैं. कुछ हद तक, to an extent, yes. बोलो भाई, whatever comes to your mind, feel free. In my lecture, there's no, you interact. Tell me, socialist. Yeah, please. Larger section of the society, yes. Welfare state, yes, very good. See, Indian setup jo tha, even pre-independence, we had a lot of leaders, starting from Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, who all aspired for a socialist setup. Lekin, once we adopted the constitution, there was no word socialist. We inserted it via amendment. 3 words were added in 1976. Socialist, secular and integrity. Okay? There was no reason to insert these words. That is what the people of the ruling dispensation were saying. Ki bhai, you added these words in the times of emergency. Okay? Emergency matlab kya? Was there any freedom available? No. So that was their point of view. Again, important thing to understand. Debates will continue to happen, but we should not go into the debates. Rather, we should go into the crux of the debate. Ki bhai, rationality kya hai isme? So India always aspired for a socialist setup. That's all clear. But we deliberately inserted this particular word in the constitution. Socialist ka matlab kya hai? Socialist can be, for example, Cuba. It's a socialist state. Do we have the similar forms of socialism in India? Yes or no? India का जो socialism है उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Democratic socialism. We have democratic, communistic socialism है India में. We have Vajiram Ravi. Is it a part of the state? Is it an enterprise of the state? No. It's a private entity, right? So we have a democratic socialism where there is a kind of mixed economy. समझो अभी economy को ले आए हम preamble से ही, ठीक है? Just see how we are thinking. Simple as that. So we have a mixed framework. There was a case, Nakara versus Union of India, where Supreme Court said that we have our own brand of socialism. We cannot copy any form of socialism, right? That's for the socialism aspect. Secular, again, a debatable aspect, because the ruling dispensation, what it was saying, is secular hatao. India was always secular. Even before the insertion of this word, we were always secular. How we can say that? कौन सी चीज है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में जिससे आपको लगता है दिखता है that we are secular? Fundamental rights 25, 26, 27, 28. Freedom of conscience, a right to freely practice, propagate and profess religion. Right to manage religious affairs. यही है ना? Democratic. Democratic means what? One person, that we are going to decide who is going to rule. ठीक है? Democracy का मतलब यही है ना? One person, one vote, one value. We have a representative democracy in India. Representative democracy, article. अरे बताओ article. The executive is responsible to the parliament और लोकसभा. यार यही क्वेश्चन आ जाएगा. The council of ministers are responsible to parliament. अरे yes or no? No. द काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू लोकसभा. अरे यही तो सीखना है. लगा दिया पार्लियामेंट, कर दिया गलत. They are responsible. They are in general terms responsible to the parliament, but specifically they're responsible to Lok Sabha. As long as they enjoy majority support in Lok Sabha, they'll continue to be in power. Simple as that. ठीक है? और भी aspects. Then we come to republic. What do you mean by republic? That we have elected head of the state. Perfect. भाई monarchy है. Take the case of Britain. We have the king or the queen. ठीक है? We have a hereditary system over there. But in India, we have elected head of the state. Republic का मतलब सिर्फ यही होता है. Can you think about something else? Exactly. Public offices are open to all. Anyone can access, right? There is absence of privilege. Republic. ठीक है? आगे देखते हैं. And to secure all of its citizens. अब यहां से दो चीज पता चली. पहला, who is the source of authority? We the people. ठीक है? Next, what are the objectives? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Not the objectives. What is the kind of state we want to be, right? Then what are the objectives? Justice. कौन सा justice? Social, economic, and political. Very important point. See, why we have specifically said, सोचना चाहिए. Ask yourself that these three words, social, economic, and political. क्यों? In Indian setup, why was it really important to put these words? We could have written justice. और देखो पॉलिटिकल कब है? लास्ट में. समझो, अंबानी ऑल्सो हैज 1 vote. आई ऑल्सो हैव 1 vote. ऑटो वाला ऑल्सो हैज 1 vote. पॉलिटिकल जस्टिस. बट उससे पहले क्या है? सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक. अकॉर्डिंग टू अंबेडकर, व्हाट ही सेड, दैट इफ यू रियली वांट टू हैव जस्टिस इन द सोसाइटी, you need to ensure social and economic justice first and then political justice. भाई आप वोट सबके पास बराबर है, but we have deep inequalities in the society. So over here comes the importance of socio-economic justice. समझ में आ गया? ठीक है? Philosophy discuss कर रहे हैं, polity discuss नहीं कर रहे हैं अभी. आगे देखते हैं. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. Liberty means what? That you are free to do some things. Of what? Thought, expression. Article 19. Freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of opposition. Freedom to debate in society. That is one of the prerequisites of a thriving democracy. Democracy का मतलब क्या है? आप freedom हो आपके पास बोलने का, right? आप support किसी को भी कर सकते हो. You support Rahul Gandhi. That should also be allowed, right? But why people laugh on that? I don't understand. Anyone can support anyone, right? Belief, faith and worship. Belief, Article 25. Conscience, profess, practice, propagate. Worship, ठीक है. आगे, equality of status and of opportunity. Equality, again, see, justice was already mentioned, and first they have talked about justice and then they talk about equality of status and of opportunity, because justice कब आएगा? See, again, you are giving primacy to justice first and then you're talking about equality of status and of opportunity. Article 15, against discrimination, prohibition against discrimination on the basis of region, race, caste, sex, place of birth. 16, equality of opportunity in the matters of public employment. ठीक है? ये सब चीजें. Then to promote among them all fraternity. Fraternity का मतलब क्या होता है? Brotherhood, a sense of commonness. कि भाई तू मेरा भाई है, तू रात में बोला I'll come to help you. That is what fraternity, right? Assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. This is very important. Assuring the dignity. Dignity क्यों use किया यहाँ पर? What do you mean by dignity? Assuring the dignity of the individual. Similar treatment must be given if Mukesh Ambani comes here, or if a person, a crippled person or a person who is impoverished, similar treatment must be given, because Immanuel Kant look at the individual as an end, not as a means. Dignity आ गया? Ethics का आंसर लिख रहे हो अगर तो यूज कर सकते हो ना preamble. That is how you have to think. Think from the mains perspective. Open your minds. Be open to thoughts. And then pre निकल जाएगा. Right? Now, unity and integrity. Unity and integrity के दो conception है. एक हो गया territorial. कि भाई इंडिया जो है वो एक है. No state has a right to secede. West Bengal cannot say कि हम छोड़ रहे हैं. ऐसे कैसे? ठीक है? They cannot, right? So next aspect is psychological. Psychological क्या? भाई communalism है society में. Linguistic aspects हैं. Regionalism है. तो उनको ब्रेक करना है, ठीक है. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, 26th day of November 1949, not January, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves. We started with the word we, and we are giving this to ourselves. Sovereignty lies with people. Popular sovereignty. Concept पढ़ा है ना? PSR वाले कौन है यहाँ पर? अरे वाह, ओके गुड. चलो ये समझ में आ गया. अब आगे देखते हैं एक इंपॉर्टेंट कंसेप्ट. भाई अब क्वेश्चन आया कि वेदर प्रियम्बल इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. सो देयर वाज अ रेफरेंस मेड, प्रेसिडेंशियल रेफरेंस आर्टिकल 143, बेरूबरी यूनियन केस था, जहां पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या बोला कि इट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट, इट इज अ सोर्स ऑफ नॉलेज, इट टेल्स अस how the state is to be governed, what are the aspirations, but it is not a part of constitution. Then we had the very famous Kesavananda Bharati, where Supreme Court categorically said no, it tells us what the aspirations of the state should be, so therefore automatically it becomes a part of the constitution. Similar thing was said in the LIC case. ठीक है, तो ये बहुत static information है. Now again, socialist secular debate we have already discussed. Ruling dispensation, it was saying there were some people who had a kind of a rightist mindset. They said कि socialist की जरूरत नहीं है और secular की जरूरत नहीं है, because socialist was incorporated and these words were incorporated during the times of emergency. There was no freedom. Plus the preamble mentions the date as 26 November 1949. So you cannot insert another ideal in 1976 because the date is already mentioned. ठीक है, तो ये debate थी, and related to that there was an article in the Hindu. Please see, I'm not asking you to read it, but just understand. I think if I'm not wrong, this was on 24th of October 2024. Supreme Court verdict saying it upholds that these words should stay in the constitution. ठीक है, that is how you link the current with that of the static. कर दिया ना link preamble. Now let's go to the next part. भाई I said कि जो ideals हैं they're enshrined in the preamble. Now constitution है क्या? What is constitution trying to do? Is it mere a set of laws and legal principles? Is it mere that? अरे अभी preamble पढ़ा है ना, aspirations, values, ideals. We call that Indian constitution is transformative, transactional and transformative. Two words you must have heard, right? What is the difference? बताओ, देखो जो भी आता है बोलो at least. That is really very important. No, it's the word is transformative and transactional. Transactional मतलब क्या भाई? Transaction हो रहा है, we are just taking as plus and minus, no emotions involved. ठीक है. Transformative, we basically wants to break the shackles of social hierarchies. अरे discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, उसको break करके क्या करना है? एक new era लेके आना है जहां पे justice हो, equality हो. यही तो है ना philosophy overall constitution की, where we talk about individual freedom. Now this is going to be a very important thing. I'll transition to another idea. Please pay attention. Individual freedom, dignity, freedom of expression, justice, social, economic and political. Dignity, again the same thing, where you are looking at the person as an end, not as a means. Then minority rights, article. Minorities, I'm not just talking about religious minorities, I'm talking about linguistic minorities. ठीक है, जहां पे देखो कोई भी minority हो, not talking about religious minorities per se, every minority has a sense of insecurity. So you need to, after the partition, the constitution makers thought कि यार the condition is very bad. The minorities you have in the country, especially the religious minorities, they need to have a feeling of security within themselves. Therefore we came up with these rights. Got it? Minority rights. Then we have secularism, discussed. Universal franchise का मतलब क्या होता है? Every person who is above the age of 18 is entitled to vote, except on the law made by the parliament, right? Otherwise, in the other conditions, he or she has a right to basically vote. Then we have federalism. Federalism क्या होता है? Is India a federation? अरे ये तो पता होना चाहिए. India is a federation, right? No. India has quasi-federal structure. अरे लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ी आप लोगों ने? कौन सा पढ़ा है? लक्ष्मीकांत. Article 1 क्या बोलता है? India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Does it say India, that is Bharat, shall be a federation of states? No, we have a centralizing tendency. Emergency provisions, appointment of governor, है ना, centralizing tendency. But what does federation means? Does it mean that the states are dependent on the center? अरे सोच के बताओ, yes no जो बोलना है बोलो. Does it mean that the states should be dependent upon the center? No. अरे भाई डिपेंडेंसी थोड़ी क्रिएट करनी है. डॉक्टर अंबेडकर what he said, that states are not mere appendages to the center. They are not dependencies on the center. That is the debate all about. States have their own constitutional existence. Articles है ना, 7th schedule, union list, state list, concurrent list, है ना अपना. Except in certain circumstances, both exercise their power in their own domain. Center cannot infringe arbitrarily. अरे वर्ड सुने है ना, arbitrarily. ठीक है, तो ये चीज समझो. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट केस. अच्छा, कोई बता सकता है मुझे कौन सा केस था जहां पे फेडरलिज्म एज अ पार्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर बताया था? SR बोमई वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया, वेयर सुप्रीम कोर्ट सेड दैट फेडरलिज्म इज अ पार्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. मतलब क्या? यू कैन नॉट चेंज इट, यू कैन नॉट ऑल्टर इट. ठीक है, इन्हीं सारी चीजों से एक कंसेप्ट आता है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. वी आर गोइंग टू अ न्यू टॉपिक नाउ. कैन एनीवन टेल मी? इसको देखो, कुछ याद आ रहा है? एक वर्ड है, दो वर्ड्स हैं. What Ambedkar said, that these ideals must be followed in letter and spirit. सिर्फ लिखने के लिए नहीं है. आंसर में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मोरालिटी पढ़ा है? सुना भी नहीं है? सुना होगा ना. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मोरालिटी, that is what Ambedkar said. Why again and again I'm quoting Ambedkar is that he was a chairman of the drafting committee. So he had not saying that he had all the idea, but again he had a good knowledge of the constitution, and he said कि इंडिया में बहुत जरूरी है cultivate करना. क्या cultivate करना? Constitutional morality. What are the various aspects of constitutional morality? Expression of freedom, right to equality, due process of law. What is due process of law? Can anyone just tell me? भाई एक हो गया, कानून बना हुआ है, एक लॉ है which says step A, step B, step C. That is the procedural aspect. You follow step A, step B, step C, you are following the procedure. Step B says, step B is arbitrary. There's no logic of step B. Then you bring in the aspect of due process of law. Whether this is even reasonable or not, whether it is fair or not. ठीक है? That is what due process is all about. समझे? Procedure established by law is a very narrow concept, but due process is a very broad concept. ठीक है? These are the aspects. Preamble, rule of law and not of men. पढ़ा होगा. ठीक है? मतलब कानून जो आपने बनाया उसको on that basis the state has to run, not what a particular person says. Look at the article, and this is from 27th of October, right? Judge of Madras High Court talking about the importance of constitutional morality, saying that not just the executive or the parliament, even the judges should uphold constitutional morality. They should also follow the principles which are enshrined in the constitution. And I'll tell you why this is important. First, after all this discussion, let's attempt the question. ठीक है? पहला question बताओ जल्दी. The preamble to the and सोच के बताना, गलत नहीं बताना चाहिए बिल्कुल भी. The preamble to the Constitution of India is, read it first, please take your time and read it. अच्छा, ये मैंने डिस्कस भी नहीं किया. See, is preamble legally enforceable? No, right? Okay, thank God. Please answer. The answer is a part of the Constitution. It is a part of the Constitution. Kesavananda Bharti and LIC case. But it has no legal effect independently of the other parts. Courts can refer to the preamble for the interpretations of the various provisions of the Constitution. Refer कर सकते हैं, but enforceable नहीं है. I hope this is clear, right? Look at the other question. Which one of the following objectives is not embodied in the preamble to the Constitution? Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. कौन सा नहीं है? Economic liberty. ठीक है? अब यहाँ पे कोई ये बताओ, सिर्फ if you have a mere understanding of the reading of the Constitution, if you have read what preamble is, you can easily mark this statement as correct. Next, the mind of the makers of the Constitution of India is reflected in which of the following? Preamble, right? And ये मैंने नहीं बनाया, UPSC के सवाल है, right? This is the question you had today. We the people of India in the preamble suggest what? Ultimate sovereignty lies with the people. Now, look at this. This is important. In the context of polity, which one of the following would you accept as the most appropriate definition of liberty? भाई देखो, liberty मतलब क्या? सिर्फ absence of restraints. अरे वो तो जानवर को भी मिलता है, जहां जाने जाओ. But when we are talking about liberty in the context of human living, it is much more broader concept. Liberty होना सिर्फ ये नहीं है that you have there are no restrictions imposed. Liberty means that you have the opportunity to develop yourself. Now you tell me one thing. Can this question be solved just on the basis of facts? You'll have to think. थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा ना कि liberty क्या होती है. That is what the UPSC has been doing. The questions these days means in the last 3 to 4 years, they also test your critical thinking. So that is very important. कोई भी चीज ऐसे एक्सेप्ट मत करो, थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन करो अपने आप को. So these are the prelims question. Let's have a mains PYQ. Let's read this question. It says, discuss each adjective attached to the word republic in the preamble. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic. We already discussed that. Can we easily solve this question after the discussion? Yes. Look at this question. Please read it. Constitutional morality is rooted in the Constitution itself and is founded on the essential facets. Is rooted in Constitution itself. कहाँ पे? Preamble. And is founded on the essential facets. Explain the doctrine of constitutional morality with the help of relevant judicial decisions. Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India. Section 377 was partially struck off. Manoj Narola versus Union of India. I don't know whether you have heard these cases, but it's important. Where Supreme Court said कि भाई जो भी public offices में लोग बैठे हैं, there is an expectation of an ethical conduct from them, right? Vishaka, Sabrimala, Indian Young Lawyers Association versus State of Kerala, where in Sabrimala, what was said? Very good. Constitutional morality is superior to social morality. अरे social morality क्या होता है? अपने traditions, customs. If your traditions and customs are violating the fundamental right, very important line, please pay attention. If your traditions or customs are violating someone's fundamental rights, then constitutional morality would override social morality. D.Y. Chandrachud, former Chief Justice of India, said this line in this verdict. ठीक है? Next question. Constitutional morality is a fulcrum which acts as an essential check upon the high functionaries. ठीक है? So again, what we are trying to say, we are trying to focus upon this aspect. I did not discuss strategy with you कि भाई polity कैसे पढ़ें, tips and tricks. We already have a lot of ex-civil servants giving you a lot of strategies on the YouTube. Please watch that. But I will talk about more substantive part, more important part. In my discussions with respect to polity, I'll make sure that you also have a perspective of the mains. Pre निकालने का कोई मतलब नहीं है ना अगर mains ना निकल पाए तो, right? So we'll discuss that aspect. Now, as I said, we will go for holistic coverage. That is going to be my philosophy for polity, where we'll cater to the prelims aspect, the mains, and also, अब ये अगर आपसे पूछ लिया जाए personality test में, that what is your opinion of constitutional morality? You can easily define that. What are the cases? Very easily. So my methodology is going to be 3 C's. First is the concept. Second is the contemporary relevance. क्या क्या चल रहा है? देखा था ना आर्टिकल द हिंदू का. And third is critical analysis. थोड़ा सोचो खुद से, क्योंकि questions would force you. If not in the prelims, definitely the question is going to make you think in the mains. So try to develop that habit initially itself. I hope that's clear. Now we'll be following this layered coverage. We'll not just follow Baba Lakshmikant. We'll follow a lot of other things. We'll also follow the NCRTs. We'll make sure that we have questions not just from Lakshmikant per se, but we'll also have questions from DD Basu or something like that. So that is going to be the methodology with respect to polity in my discussions off camp. Then thematic test, अब आपके जो tests होंगे, this would be in proper themes, fundamental rights, DPSPs and the parliament and everything. Then dynamic coverage, I'll make sure that we have some questions from the current affairs, जो चल रहा है last 1 or 2 years, right? Then mains linkage, we'll try to do that, but I'll not be able to help with the tips and tricks. ये मुझे नहीं आता. Tips and tricks. We can focus upon smart guesses. वो भी तब possible है if you have worked hard. थोड़ी पढ़ाई करनी पड़ेगी smart guesses के लिए भी. ठीक है? Otherwise, tips and tricks, I'm really sorry for that. Next is नहीं ये नहीं, गलत आ गया. Finally, अरे देखो ना इधर, the constitution is not a document frozen in time, it's a living document. Living means what? It's an organic document. So you have to see, it's not just for the writing part, you have to think in that way. It's a living document means what? One idea can be interpreted in different ways, and it is all about ideas. You convince the examiner in the mains, sir mera idea usse better hai, you will get more marks, right? So finally, our goal in the prelims camp is not just to qualify the test, it's to understand how India works. In my test, I'll make sure that you have a good thorough analysis of the various aspects. That's it from my side. Thank you. Okay. So you'll have one more.
I hope you are enjoying the discussion so far. कैसा लग रहा है? चलो, so I'm going to start with the subject of geography now. So Edmund Burke has said that geography is an earthly subject but a heavenly science. But according to me, it's a very playful subject when it comes to prelims perspective. ठीक है? दो तीन मैं recommendations आपको अभी दूंगी. See, when we study for examinations and we try to count in the number of hours, it doesn't matter much. What matters is our orientation towards the paper. So let's say आपका जो leisure time है, उसमें भी आप कुछ ऐसा करो जो कि exam के orientation के according हो. For example, installing an app which is World Atlas and trying to solve the countries there. अब ये आपका लेजर टाइम को भी एक्टिवेट करेगा, आपको अच्छा लगेगा, एंड एट द सेम टाइम यू विल गेट टू लर्न अ लॉट ऑफ कंट्रीज बिकॉज मैपिंग इज समथिंग व्हिच इज ओवरऑल गोइंग टू हेल्प यू इन ज्योग्राफी सब्जेक्ट. But at the same time, it cannot be learned overnight. It cannot be learned 15 days prior to the paper. है ना? So mapping has to be done as a daily activity. Best would be आप सबके पास world map होगा या आपके walls में pasted होगा. What we do is we generally don't internalize those maps. So best way would be to maybe install the world atlas map, जो कि मैं करती थी, तो मुझे mostly सारी countries याद है, उनके capital याद है. आपको भी वो बहुत easily याद हो जाएगा. Now, in today's session, what we are going to do, online students, am I audible? Hi everyone, am I audible? So in today's session, in this discussion, what I'm going to undertake is what are going to be the best practices, best approaches to prepare for geography in the most effective manner. And second, I'm going to take up since this is the last section of our discussion, I'm going to take up the FAQs that have been asked by you, have been pulled by our team. So we'll get to know कि कैसे हम अच्छे notes बनाए, revise कैसे करें, prelims के लिए कब से preparation strongly start करें. All of these things I'm going to address. So without wasting much time, hi Aarti, hi everyone. So my name is Richa Sharma and I also hold silver medal in masters in the geography subject. And so before beginning how we approach a subject, we first have to do a very thorough analysis of the last 10 years, okay? Which makes us understand and appreciate the Pareto's rule better. How many of you know about the Pareto's principle? 80-20 rule, किसी को पता है? Very good. So to figure out that 20% of the area from the syllabus, what we require is last 10 years analysis. And in geography, ना ये Pareto's rule बहुत clearly visible होता है. Pareto's rule is your 80% of the result can be fetched from just studying 20% of the syllabus. So what is that 20%? So if we analyze this, first of all, if I have to compare between Indian geography and world geography, Indian geography is more important. So we have to set up priorities straight. Second, when it comes to world geography or let's say Indian geography only, location, structure, physiography of India, that is more important. Then climate, natural vegetation, soils, these parts are more important as compared to reading about disasters or
ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी ऐसा, ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी से बहुत क्वेश्चन नहीं आते हैं, राइट? सो हमने अपने यहाँ पे प्रायोरिटीज देख ली. इकोनॉमिक ज्योग्राफी में रीडिंग अबाउट द मिनरल रिसोर्सेज एंड देयर स्प्रेड, that is more important as compared to studying about specific industries, right? In minerals also, what do we have to particularly read? कैसे question आ रहे हैं अभी? कैसे question आ रहे हैं आजकल? How, which kind of minerals are they asking? Are they asking you about the distribution of copper or iron? They are asking about critical minerals. They are asking about titanium. They are asking about cobalt. Why? Because these are critical minerals. They are in use. So when I have to prepare the map of any resource distribution, prioritize it for the critical minerals. Got it? Chalo. Then in the world map best होता है जब हम उसको thematically prepare करते हैं. You were in last camp also, right? So जब हम उसको thematically prepare करते हैं, and secondly when we know and when we have understood the entire mapping system. तो आपको maps करना is literally mandatory if you want to score good in world geography, which is mostly driven by the places in news. But places in news में every day there would be 5 to 10 news coming up. तो कितनी places in news हम collect करें? ऐसे होगा तो फिर तो 5,000 places हो जाएंगी. So in this session I'm going to deal with that also. Which particular place in news you have to address. And so how did your geography section went for this test? All of you have taken the test, right? How did it go? It was good. It was simple. How many of you have read NCERT? NCERT guys? So test went easy. ठीक है? The main source for studying geography would undoubtedly be NCERTs only, no matter what anybody says. For prelims perspective, NCERT से ज़्यादा कोई अच्छा आपको रिजल्ट नहीं देने वाला है. ठीक है? तो पहली चीज तो हम ये क्लियर रखें. दूसरी बात, I'm going to talk about certain right approaches to study for geography. ठीक है? It is not just about reading NCERT or looking at your map, glancing at your map aimlessly and then overthinking about everything. वो भी हो जाता है. So हमें क्या करना है? सही अप्रोचेस पढ़नी है. पहली बात, मैप लेके नहीं बैठ जाना है. आपको मैप में एग्जैक्टली क्या पता करना है ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हाट आर द लैंडलॉक्ड, थीमेटिक आपके क्वेश्चंस होने चाहिए. व्हाट आर द लैंडलॉक्ड कंट्रीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. सो देन आई कैन सी नॉर्थ अमेरिका में है क्या कोई, साउथ अमेरिका में कोई है, अफ्रीका में कोई है, एशिया में कौन सा है. सो pick a theme and try to figure out all the continents, move continent wise with respect to that theme. This is going to help you a lot because it builds focus when it comes to mapping. So for example, I want to read about any physical feature. मुझे lakes के बारे में पढ़ना है. I have to read about seas, I have to read about straits, I have to read about mountains, etc. Right? So I will pick that theme and I will move across different continents to explore कि यहाँ पे कौन सी सीज है, दो सीज को कनेक्ट कौन सा स्ट्रेट कर रहा है. ठीक है? So move thematically always. This is something which we consciously don't do. इसलिए मैपिंग डिफिकल्ट हो जाती है. वी ट्राई टू लोकेट एवरीथिंग इन अ फिजिकल मैप और अ पॉलिटिकल मैप. दैट इज नॉट द राइट अप्रोच. लेट्स से आई एम रीडिंग अबाउट द मिनरल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. आई शुड बी पर्टिकुलरली नोइंग मुझे मिनरल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पढ़ना है. अब उसको ऐसे नहीं पढ़ना है कि मैं पूरा मैप देख लूं, मैप खोल के बैठ जाऊं और सोचूं कि अच्छा कहाँ कहाँ पे आयरन है, कहाँ पे मुझे कॉपर के रिजर्व्स मिल रहे हैं. दैट इज नॉट द राइट अप्रोच. Check for North America, check for South America. This way you will be able to take better notes, recall better. Got it? Sure. Then, this question was asked in today's test about a ship traveling from London to Mumbai using the shortest maritime route will pass through how many of the above water bodies? So, how many of you have got it right? Answer is all of them. How many of you have got it right? Only one has got it right. ऐसे क्यों? बाकी लोग को सीज का ओरिएंटेशन नहीं पता था. चैलेंज क्या फेस हुआ मुझे बताओ, वन बाय वन. आप बताओ. आंसर शीट नहीं तो क्या आंसर मार्क किया था? ठीक है, फाइन. ऑल 5 किसने किया? एक ही ने किया है क्या? ठीक है, इतने लोगों ने किया. जिन लोगों ने ऑल 4 किया उन्होंने क्या सोचा? उनको क्या लगा कि कोई और सी है क्या बीच में? नॉर्थ सी नहीं काउंट किया था. ओके, ठीक है. बट आपको लंदन ही बोला हुआ है ना. सो लंदन तो यहाँ पे है, यहीं से आएगा ना. तो चलो ठीक है. एनीवे, द पॉइंट ओवर हियर इज, लेट्स से आई एम रीडिंग अबाउट दिस टॉपिक नाउ. बहुत सारे लोगों का अभी क्वेश्चन गलत चला गया. तो अब मैं इसके लिए नोट्स कैसे प्रिपेयर करूं? हाउ टू प्रिपेयर बेटर नोट्स. ओके, सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, ऑलवेज ट्राई टू एक्सप्लोर बियॉन्ड. लाइक अ ज्योग्राफी ट्रैवलर, यू ऑल लाइक टू ट्रैवल ना. ऑलमोस्ट एवरीबडी लाइक्स टू ट्रैवल. कोई है हु डिस्पाइसेस ट्रैवल? I don't want to move outside my room. Nobody. So when we try to go to some place, we try to explore more beyond what is apparent, what is visible. So in this case, check for all the seas, but not only that, can I also say maybe in the exam they could ask about the straits. How many straits, number of straits that have to be passed in order to move from London to Mumbai. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't have to encapsulate ourselves or box ourselves into only the question and the knowledge which is given in the question. Not just the order of the seas, but also what else can you relate from it. For example, is there any PYQ around it? So I have figured out, in PYQ, they would be asking about the bordering countries also. So if I'm preparing for North Sea, also prepare the bordering countries of the North Sea, which was asked in 2023. Okay? Then if I'm studying about seas, there would be many rivers which would be draining into seas. So note down the rivers also which are draining into the seas. This question has also been asked. Also, if any current affair, any type of news is there which is dealing with a nation which is bordering sea, then you must know which sea it is bordering. So for example, the Turkey question was asked. Got it? Got it? Online students, are you able to understand what I'm saying? So always and always, whenever you try to take notes in geography, the best way to score is not to diversify the sources, not to study two different books, but to question and explore more. कि अगर मैं सी के बारे में पढ़ रहा हूँ तो कुछ कैनाल्स होंगे, कुछ स्टेट्स होंगे, कुछ बॉर्डरिंग कंट्रीज होंगी जो अपने आप ही आपको ब्रेनस्टॉर्म कर लेना है. So that should be in your today's notes, not just the sequence of the sea. That would be a very lethargic and lazy kind of preparation. That is not going to give you any edge. Got it? Chalo. Now, next thing is always move for theme-based analysis. Whenever we study for geography, if you're not doing mapping, there is no study of geography at all. Even if you skip geomorphology altogether, it's fine. कोई आपसे नहीं पूछा आजकल के depositional forms कौन से, erosional forms कौन से. And anyway, in the prelims camp discussion, I'm going to thoroughly make you revise all the landforms so that you never forget in life. But that is not something that they usually ask. They usually ask about the mapping related questions. Because in the last 10 years, if you see students, most of the questions have been around rivers. And more or less the same river. 3 times they have asked about Pennar River. And Pennar River creates the largest canyon of India, which is the largest canyon of India. 3 times this question has been asked in UPSC PYQ. कोई कुछ बोल रहा है धीमे धीमे? Online students, can you answer? Gandikota Canyon, right? That's what you said? Very good. So is this your first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, which one? If you're comfortable, second attempt, right? So also, this is one more reminder. You are not going to sit in prelims examination with people who are in their first attempt, in the second attempt. You are going to compete with people who have already crossed the interview stages, probably are sitting in prelims to better up their rank. And that is the reality of the paper, right? तो आपको ये सोचना है कि आपको इसी वक्त पे ऐसा एफर्ट मारना है, इसी मूवमेंट पे जो प्रीलिम्स कैंप का आपका प्रोसेस चल रहा होगा, इसी टाइम पे आपको ऐसा एफर्ट डालना है, which is equivalent to their 5 years of preparation. So how do we do that? Exploring beyond, understanding the right strategy. तो अगर रिवर पढ़ के आप नहीं जा रहे हो, then this is almost like butchering your geography section for prelims. Rivers is an important theme. Then when I read about rivers, the perspectives are different. जब मैं rivers prepare करूंगी, there is so much to reading rivers, right? But when you read about the world rivers, you have to read about only 2 things. Only 2 things have been asked, which is their origin source and their drain source. Only 2 things for the world rivers. So एक map आप download कर लो, जिसमें ये दोनों points given हो, नहीं given हो तो उनको mark कर लो, mention कर लो, what is the origin and drain point. Only this much has been asked. But when it comes to India's river, let's brainstorm, because they would be asking a lot of things, because hardly there are 9 rivers which we have to study. So what we have to study, first of all, its origin, where does it drain. Drain का तो किसी को याद करना भी नहीं होता, वो पूछते भी नहीं है. But what else they could be asking? Tell me, what have they asked so far in the river section? Sequence, yeah, but that is a very CDS and CAPF kind of question. It very rarely comes in CSE examination. So what else? Tributary is very good. Left bank tributary, right bank tributary, particularly they have asked. Next. Yeah? Major cities, any national park, if it is there. What else? Hydroelectric power plant, waterfalls. What else? Yeah, very good. any landform associated. So which means, let's say in next year prelims, you get to do the match the following with a river and its associated valley. तो आपको ये शॉकर में नहीं रहना है कि they have asked something about valleys which is very unpredictable. It is predictable because they have picked it from the theme of rivers only, but they have just got little precise and asked about the landform, which could be canyons, which could be, yeah, please speak loudly, you're saying right thing only. बताइए, what are the landforms associated with the river? Valley, canyons, gorges, these are the things. Mountain ranges, but that we will be reading in mountain ranges. So mostly you have to read about rivers, any water body. It could be lake, it could be sea and the bordering areas, and you have to read about the mountain ranges or the hills, the peaks, their ascending order from north to south, east to west, their passes, any glacier associated with them. अब ये सिर्फ इतना भी thematic का अगर आपने notes बना लिया ना आज, तो आपकी इंडियन ज्योग्राफी के मोस्टली 50% के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस बहुत इजीली सॉल्व हो जाएंगे सिर्फ इतने थीम से भी, ठीक है? बट द थीम्स हैव टू बी वेरी प्रिसाइज. चलिए, the next method of studying for geography is the reference point study. That whenever I'm reading any map, I should have certain reference point. Either that could be the place in news. Ki let's say Madhya Pradesh is in news, or let's say Kanha National Park is in news. So you are reading things around Kanha National Park, which kind of forest is found, which kind of flora, fauna, what are the cities surrounding it, and what is the speciality of the Kanha National Park. Is there any endemic species found in any kind of national park? So all these things you have to figure out. These areas can only be figured out with the help of a reference point. So that could either be any important latitude, important longitude, any extreme points. Online students, are you understanding this? Any extreme point, because these questions only have been asked. For example, among the following cities, which one is nearest to the Tropic of Cancer? Which one is nearest to the Tropic of Cancer? This is given in NCERT. And this question has been asked. Then, maybe in the CAMPS exam, maybe they could be asking how many cities are to the north of Tropic of Cancer, or how many states, number of states are to the south of Tropic of Cancer. The reference point is Tropic of Cancer. अब ये वाली चीजें आपको कोई भी बुक नहीं बता सकती है. This is only observational learning, right? So we are teaching you the same thing, and I'll be teaching you the same pedagogy in CAMP program also. How to put one reference and how to study all the important variables around it. For example, this was a very simple question though. What were the extreme points of India? Then they have asked about the eastern and the westernmost state. So these questions are generally very easy, but how to study? अब आपको सपना तो आएगा नहीं, NCERT में given नहीं है, किसी और book में given नहीं, तो how to do? First of all, take tests so that you get the idea what kind of question can be asked. Do a lot of PYQ, take a reference point and study. Next is, what is the best tool to study for geography? This might work or might not work for any other subject, but for geography, it's a hands down promising strategy. Download the syllabus which is given in your CAMP test, which is given for your CAMP test, and do detailed study of each and every point. Do detailed study of each and every point. So your objective should not be to finish any book or any PDF as such. It should be to tick mark all the important topics that are given. If you have finished this much, and if you have done the referential and the thematic study of maps, you are good to go with most of the things of geography. Geography mein either they'll be asking you conceptual questions. Okay, for example, they'll be asking you about isotherms, or they'll be asking you about the sub-solar point. How many of you have got that question correct? Sub-solar point. What is solar declination? Only one. And the reason is, first of all, we only generally dwell into the basic areas, which is, आपसे अगर कोई पूछ ले कि solstice and equinoxes क्या है, आपको वो concept clear है ना? But these are the same terms which are related to equinoxes and solstices, which, by the way, have been asked every alternate year in the examination. So just imagine the importance of this particular theme, and still we are not able to solve this question. Why? Because we are only hovering around the basics and not the advanced level of studies. So advanced level of studies again is taken care by the CAMP program. So even if you just attend the classes, I can assure you within one class, within 2 hours of studies, you will eventually move from a basic level to advanced level. ओके तो ये क्वेश्चन कैसे सॉल्व करेंगे, वी विल सी दैट ऑल्सो नेक्स्ट. टूल्स के लिए, सब्जेक्ट के लिए, या फिर टू प्रिपेयर फॉर एनी टॉपिक, एनसीईआरटी इज द बेस्ट सोर्स, because many questions would be verbatim directly asked from NCERT itself. And the testament is today's test only, because we have this question, place a deposit, continental drift theory by Alfred Wegener, 1912 में देके रखी हुई है. How many people have solved this question right? इसका आंसर है both of them. So किस किस का सही हुआ है? ठीक है, अभी भी they are minority. Just imagine, this is verbatim pulled from NCERT text, 11th standard. उसके बाद भी गलत जा रहा है. Alfred Wegener की सबसे बेसिक थ्योरी है continental drift theory. उन्होंने इतने सालों पहले दिया, अब तो हम याद कर सकते हैं ना. And it is very easy also. It is, you just have to read this page, this one page. In future, they might be asking you about the tillite. They might be asking you about the distribution of fossils. They might be asking you about the post-drift theories. And this is something, let's say post-drift theories is not very vividly given over here. So this is something which I can directly Google. Do not deviate from your standard source. Source will be your NCERT only, but whenever you see कि कोई topic अच्छे से deal नहीं हुआ है, it's not convincing enough, just go and Google it down and put it in the form of notes. When? Okay, just give me 10 minutes. ठीक है, these are the themes for current affairs. You can take a screenshot or you can take a photo. If possible, we'll try to make the PDF available for you. But these are the areas from where current affair would be asked. So this time, current affair of cloud seeding was asked. Why? Because काफी बड़ा blunder हुआ था Delhi government का, cloud seeding के लिए भेजा था तो जल गया, कुछ हुआ ही नहीं, बारिश ही नहीं हुई. तो then when we try to explore beyond what is given, we'll understand कि कैसे topic को prepare करना है. First, normally लोग क्या करेंगे, notes लिख देंगे कि what are the areas or what are the qualifying factors to create effective cloud seeding. So it would be these factors. Main factor is there should be enough amount of moisture present. क्योंकि cloud seeding doesn't create cloud, it only accelerates amount of moisture. That is the only thing it does. Now, these areas anybody would be reading. This PYQ has been asked. This question has been asked. But many of you would not be reading about the different type of clouds, which again you have to read. ना, cloud is a topic of geography. ठीक है? So इस तरीके से हम आपको कैंप में पढ़ाई कराने वाला है. ठीक है? It has to be very integrated. It will be with reference to PYQs and other things. Now Kaveri River. So let's say I want to prepare for any river. कितना ही पूछ लेंगे river के अंदर, इन areas के beyond क्या पूछ सकते हैं? And this I have created for all the rivers. What is the drain source? What is the origin source? What are the different type of national parks around it? Right bank tributary, left bank tributary. What is the trick to remember the right and left bank tributary for all the rivers, all the important rivers? Why was it in current affairs? What are the major cities around it? Can I ask you a question? Which is the highest waterfall of India? And is it on Kaveri River? It's very close to Kaveri River, but is it on Kaveri River? Have you heard about the Kunchigal waterfall? That is the highest. Jog Fall is the second highest. Highest is Kunchigal. And it is on Varahi River. But this question can be asked. It is a distinctive feature of India. ना कोई highest है, कोई lowest है. तो इन areas को भी आपको पढ़ना है कि कौन से rivers के around है. जैसे गंडीकोटा बार-बार ये क्यों पूछा गया है? Because it is the largest canyon. So which river is creating it? Which river is creating Gandikota Canyon? Online students, which river is creating it? Penna River. And is Penna River tributary of any river? No. Very good. It's an independent river. Where does it drain? Arabian Sea or Bay of Bengal? Bay of Bengal. Okay? So this is how I'm going to make you adept with all the rivers, and you're going to get good notes out of it. Next is we are going to move from basics to advanced level. For example, in this question, you cannot solve it unless you know about what is solar declination and what is subpolar point. Many of you would not be knowing subpolar point is not a point, it is an area which is directly illuminated by the sun, which is overhead. So if the sun rays are making 90 degrees, then only that area is known as subsolar point. Solar point इसलिए नहीं बोला जाता. Solar point तो anywhere wherever sun is illuminating itself, right? But जहाँ पे 90 डिग्री का एंगल है वही SSP subsolar point होता है. And solar declination angle क्या होता है? क्या होता है? It is the latitude, in simple terms, latitude on which the sun is falling its rays overhead perpendicularly. That's it. And so there are only two angles to remember, 23.5 degrees north, 23.5 degrees south, which causes solstices, summers and winters respectively, and 0 degree, which causes equinoxes. and there are related dates, which by the way, UPSC has asked more than 10 times in the last 20 years of PYQ. So this is a very important theme. Got it? Chaliye. Finally, I'll be addressing some of the FAQs. Just give me 5 minutes more. FAQs, because students have asked this. Okay. How to manage syllabus with less time. So again, one word for this, to set your priorities straight. Right now, you would be wanting to do so many things. Many of you would be hungry. Many of you would want to take bath, would want to take chai with friend, many things. But your priority is set right now that you have to clear prelims. So you have to attend the solution to this test so that it gives you better clarity. Priority should be very clear as to which subject I have to take first. Second, within that subject, what are the more important areas which can be analyzed with the help of PYQs, which we will be taking up in the prelims camp papers. Okay? Then, how to manage classes and self-study at the same time. There are 3 things which every aspirant must do. One is self-study, second revision, third practice. इसमें से एक का भी imbalance होगा, एक का भी imbalance होगा, it becomes very difficult to crack the paper. Got it? Self-study should be done minimum of 6 number of hours. 6 hours, which means when you study this, when you take up these classes, 2.5 hours roughly is already sorted. आपकी self study हो गया, आपका topic का पूरा revision हो गया with advanced level of studies, right? Now, second is practice. Since you have been taking tests every alternative day, so your practice is also over there. What I would say, जब हम prelims take up करते हैं, it is very important that from the month of January, strictly everybody should be solving 25 to 50 questions on a daily basis. Because it won't happen suddenly that you will get the prelim solving aptitude. It happens very gradually. So now trying to solve your next question, which is when to switch to prelims completely. The switch shouldn't be tectonic. It should be very gradual. So till March, your focus should be giving the test and taking notes. If you are not taking notes of today's test, and in the way that I have been telling you, we are not getting any edge in the examination. It is as good as not taking the test only. Notes are very important. I cannot flip through 50 pages again and again to revise things out. I have to create one-liner notes. I'll be showing you a sample of it also. This is by one of our toppers. He has got 35th rank this year. So see, very simple, very plain notes. However, one recommendation from my side, जैसे आप इसको 2-3 times revise करो. Ideally, the formula should be the test have to be revised because they're hardcore factual. They have to be revised 5 times before sitting in the paper. Your notes, however, have to be revised at least 3 times. So 3 for notes, 5 for tests. And how many number of tests should you solve? That is up to you. But there is a number which I can fix for number of questions, which is roughly 4,500 questions should be solved and revised 3 times before sitting in the prelims paper. I promise you, you would not require any knowledge of any elimination technique. Because आपका core इतना solid हो जाएगा, you will already be very, confident about the subject. Got it? So this is how we have to create notes. We have to solve the questions. Then again, how to revise. One more suggestion from my side, always try to document your revision cycles. Which means आप एक Excel sheet पे अपना test number डालो and उनके dates डाल के रखो. ठीक है? In which interval you have to take the revision. Ideally, it should be the next day, 7 day after and 15 day after. Schedule it so that you know exactly what to do in which day. Otherwise, revision हम generally 2 से ज़्यादा बार नहीं कर पाते हैं. सभी लोग सिर्फ 2 बार कर पाते हैं. अगर आपको 3 to 5 times करना है, it has to be scheduled in the Excel sheet. Got it, everyone? Got it? Sorted? So these are some of the questions that have been asked by most of you. And finally, it all comes down to being very consistent in the prelims preparation. I have given you the number. It is 4,500 questions. 3,500 questions would be taken care of by the prelims camp itself. The next is rest would be some other test, or maybe best would be the 7 years of PYQ that you would be solving. So that makes up to our more than 4,000 questions, which have to be revised 5 times before sitting in the paper. And finally, the last dose of motivation, though I don't believe in it much, but let me give you a reality check first. ठीक है? क्या होगा अगर आप का prelims का paper मैं next month करा दूँ? So what will happen exactly, depending upon your level of preparation right now, you would be sitting. जब आप वहाँ एग्जाम में बैठोगे ना, might be possible that you have already done 15 to 20 tests. Average aspirant 15 to 20 tests कर ही लेता है. बुरे से बुरा भी कर लेता है, ठीक है. 15 to 20 टेस्ट आपने कर लिया है. उसके बाद now you are sitting, you find somebody who is already a selected IRS and is sitting over there for rank improvement. आपके पीछे कोई 3 times interview appeared बैठा है, आपके बगल में कोई बैठा है जो अपने यूनिवर्सिटी का टॉपर है, and suddenly the pressure has amounted. Suddenly pressure build up हो गया. Suddenly लग रहा है कि these 2 hours are going to decide my ultimate fate. So even if you were knowing things, you were fine with the 10, 12 tests that you have done, you are not feeling confident at that particular moment. और फिर जो आपको याद किया भी हुआ है आपने, whatever you have read so far, you would start forgetting it. Generally, this is a symptom which generally happens whenever we are stressed, whenever we are pressurized. और धीमे धीमे क्या होगा, जब पर ना सिर्फ ट्रिकी है बट लेंदी भी है, तो रीडिंग भी फास्ट करनी है. और मैंने तो स्ट्रैटेजी सोच के रखी थी, अप्लाई नहीं करी थी, टाइम नहीं था. मैंने स्ट्रैटेजी सोची थी कि आई वुड बी डूइंग 2 iterations or 3 iterations. You try to do it, you won't be able to finish even 1 iteration. एंड फिर फाइनली क्या होता है, जब हम जीएस के बाद निकलते तो हमें सीसैट देने का भी मन नहीं करता, क्योंकि somehow we know कि जीएस में क्या हो गया है. This is the story of most of the candidates, not because they are not studying properly, but because they have not planned proactively. The studies are not structured. The studies, whatever you have read, is not revised effectively. तो कैसी लगी आपको ये कहानी? ऐसी कहानी आपको चाहिए? कैसी लग रही है? इमेजिन करो ये होता है. आपको क्या लग रहा है? Prelims is the biggest eliminator. It is the toughest paper, and this happens with most of you. How many of you are already running in your second, third attempt? Most of you would be. What happened in your first attempt? Something like this only. There is. तो ये कहानी अच्छी लगी? नहीं लगी? तो आपकी ही कहानी है, आपके पास टाइम है, आप उसको चेंज करो. So last word would be arise, awake, and as Swami Vivekananda said, stop not until the goal is reached. What is the goal? How many questions? How many questions? 4,500 questions minimum. How many times of revision? 5. Got it? Chaliye, all the best everyone. See you in the classes now. Bye bye.